Doesn't feel like this lineup has a long future. Like it seems,
But they're old
seems
too,
it
right?
seems like
They're an old
seems,
lineup.
seems like we saw what we can see from G2, and everyone else is making changes to become better. Like
You're
then
saying
how?
G2 peaked? This roster's peaked.
Yeah, I think like even
Okay.
if they can find form again, I don't think that's going to be, for their appetites. I don't think that's going to be enough.
Best esports odds, VIP program and a variety of bonuses, fast and easy withdrawals, bet on every possible CSGO match and tournament, as well as any other esports game. Only on 22Bet.
Here's a good vibe, train, 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 train. Here's a good vibe, train, 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 train. Here's a good vibe, train, 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 train. Good vibe, train, yeah.
Oh, buckle up, baby. We're live. Dimitri maybe has just given us a new way into every episode because we are buckled in, ready and raring to go for another episode of HLTV Confirmed. Blast has just come to the conclusion for the full group. So we have a lot to talk about here this evening. And that's right, we have Dimitri producing yet again. Lucas, I'm not sure what happened now. We sent him out on a mission to find Prof. Prof's returned. Now, Lucas has gone missing. Now, Prof, where have you been? Lucas went looking for you. He couldn't find you.
Bro, where am I now? Like, what is happening to my internet? Why am I 7 frames per second? Am
You
I
look good to
calling?
me.
Am I
Yeah,
calling
you're fine
from
for
the
me.
past?
Oh, you
I
look
don't know.
bad to the people at home.
Something's weird. We'll have to figure.
me, it's
We're
okay.
gonna have to.
Yeah, you do look
We're gonna
whacked
have
out right now.
to figure that out. But I've just been in Croatia. I've been around. I've been to some islands. I've been to some festivals, concerts. Been to some dinners and
Look
lunches.
at this guy. I think the term
it's
is
been amazing.
cultured.
It's been amazing. It's been great. I love
He
it.
was gone for like 13 days, man. That's like, I don't remember the last time I had a vacation for 2 weeks.
The longest vacation of my life. I even turned off Discord notification. That's how crazy it was.
Did you enjoy yourself?
Yes, I did.
I saw you popping in every now and again. You know, you're watching some of the counter, still keeping up to date with it. I imagine, you're whacking it on the phone here,
No.
there, and every. No?
No, not a single round was watched.
Really?
No.
Okay.
I went
Wow.
full cold turkey
Okay. All right.
or whatever you call that.
But now
Cult-
you're back
cult
because
turkey.
you're an addict.
That is true.
Well, you can't leave Counter-Strike, right? That's one of the things around here. And
No, I can't. And what would you do? What is
Exactly.
better than Counter-Strike?
That's kind of the thing as well. Like, if you're a pro player, you must be thinking at some point, like, well, I could retire, but what am I going to do? You know, so you may as well just keep playing or try. Seems like one of the keys. I should probably thank the sponsors here. I've got SteelSeries. I always talk about them. They were lovely. We got the headphones on right now. Wireless. You can walk around, do all that good stuff. Keyboards, pads. Used to get heavy. It's a bloody brilliant. I was taking one out the other day. I was just getting it flattened out. Yeah, SteelSeries. Check them out. And 22Bet, remember to gamble responsibly. Thanks, SteelSeries. Check them out like they knew. They've been in esports for 20 years. Kind of crazy. Gentlemen, today we have an awful lot to talk about. As I mentioned, Blast has just come to the conclusion. And we saw G2 just get pipped at the post. And apparently some people want us to have a G2 talk today. Some weeks they say we don't talk about G2 enough. Some they say we talk about G2 too much. I don't know. Maybe we should really
Last time we apparently talked too much about an IP.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to balance it. What did we do about NIP? I don't remember. Do you recall?
Yeah, I do, because they obviously topped the group. They qualified for the finals, and we kind
Yeah.
of bashed them for having a team that doesn't make sense on paper for about 5 minutes, and that apparently did not sit well with a certain fan
But
of
doesn't that
NIP.
go toe to toe with what they were saying? Like on Overpass, for example, they said that nobody wanted to hold B, right? Everybody wanted to be the A rifler or the rotator. Nobody wanted to be the Overpass B defender because they have to sit still. And it's one of, you know, and that this is the thing, man. I don't think we were we were far off. It doesn't make sense, Striker. But if they can make
No,
it
I
work,
mean,
that'd be cool.
I don't think look. I would have to go back. Maybe we had some choice words for something. I don't remember. Maybe the fan spotted something I didn't. But generally, I feel like it's just something that they've acknowledged themselves. So what's the problem? I understand. You know, like they succeeded. They went through the groups. They even beat Vitality, top 2 team. You know, all that stuff. Obviously, good things.
Yeah.
But we are like, just is it gonna work for the future? You know.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we can talk a bit about them later on. I'm monitoring Prof here. He looks unhappy. Prof, you look
I'm
like
trying to figure out. I'm doing some hacking in the backstage.
But you're fine and for me. So I think
Yeah.
it's like you're routing
Preview,
to Demi or something. I don't know.
he's not good
Yeah.
on the preview, and he's not
Yeah.
good on the end product. So
I don't know what's happening, bro.
do we just ignore it and do we just go, or do we try and tread water here? Because
Well, I pushed up the bitrate, and now it's on like 2K, but I feel like the video is still shitty.
But you're
and
fine on my end. Like,
Yeah.
not the preview, but you are.
Yeah, I don't
anyway,
know.
we
Well,
can't
your
solve
side.
tech issues here. This is
I guess
one of
we're
the
gonna-
rules.
I'll restart later or something. It's weird that everything looked fine before. Just
All right,
sad.
well,
just
I'll
sad.
try and agitate you a little bit more here, Prof. You're a big fan of the cinema at the moment and all the movies that are coming out. Which
All
one
of
have you
them.
seen, Oppenheimer or Barbie? Which one are you in?
Because
You can only watch one, you can't watch both.
Blow my
Why
yeah,
not?
it's impossible. It's impossible. You just have to pick. You just have to pick, guys. You have to pick. No, fuck that. I watched the Spider-Man movie. It's fucking amazing. Did you watch the Spider-Man movie?
No, I
The
can't.
animated
watch
one
that.
thing. Yeah.
You can't watch Spider-Man. What do you have? Agoraphobia. But that's about exiting out the house. But that's
I
also
do have
probably
that.
what
Well,
you
yeah,
have.
yeah. That's just why I just don't want to go outside. But yeah. Well, I thought it was about. I was like that arachnophobia. Well,
Arachnophobia.
That's the one.
Yeah, let's
well,
go.
everybody loves it. No, I don't know. It's not interested in
You're
Spider-Man.
not interested, yeah. You're
Did you
not
see one of
interested.
those or not?
There's so many Spider-Man movies.
Oh
No,
yeah,
these
that's
ones
true.
they're good Spider-Man movies, and then there are other Spider-Man movies. These are amazing. You should watch these.
because
Okay.
they're called the Amazing Spider-Man, right?
No, they're not actually. But good try.
Bloody hell. Low-hanging fruit here this evening. Dimitri, roll the bumper. Let's get into the recent news. All right, we got some information. We have, when I say we, I guess the world collectively. Striker, you published an article on the 22nd, which was yesterday for those
Yep.
people who are playing at home, saying that the second CS2 major, or the second major of next year, is meant to be in December, and that it's to be hosted by PGO in partnership with Perfect World. Now,
I would say
people
more
were-
the other way around because it is going to be called PW, Perfect Worlds Major, rather than
P-
PGL. I think PGL is just going to be kind of like an operator / European rights holder for like broadcast stuff and stuff like that. And I think tournament operator there will be, but Perfect World is technically the organizer.
Okay, and the dates, the RMRs from October 26th till November 13th, and then the major itself from December 1st to 15th. That's in line with the new proposed major window that is for 2025, correct?
Yeah. So we will have, I mean, for people who are not aware, we will have the first CS2 major in 2024 on March. And so this will be 9 months. The second one will be 9 months after that. And then we will go into like kind of like the new proposed dates, which is June and December, essentially at the end of each season for the following 2 years, at least as far as we know so far.
So that kind of like tease us up. So we have this long gap now as we transition games and the
Yeah.
status quo, and we kind of establish how the game is played and who the top dogs are. We go into that first major early next year. We see how it shakes up, and then teams have a longer runway again to get back in shape. And then once that's the go, we kind of kick in
I
a
mean,
bit
we
more of a
will-
consistent basis.
I mean, if you do the math, we will have just one major take place in a window of about 18 months.
Okay.
So
well, that
we,
sounds
from,
like
from Paris
a
from Paris
negative
to
thing.
Copenhagen, obviously, you know, like I'm just putting it out there as a fact because from Paris to Copenhagen, that's from May to March, so 10 months, and then from Copenhagen to Shanghai, if that's the location that it ends up happening. Obviously, you know, this is China, and it is a year and a half away, you know, so who knows
Yes.
what can happen until then. Things can change. I know the second 2023 major, we were talking about it here, you know, you were saying that you heard it was Singapore. Originally the plan was China, but obviously, you know, COVID situation, and like it was so difficult to hold events in China that they eventually moved it to Singapore, and then it got canceled because of CS2 coming out, you know. So
Sure.
this is kind of like them pushing that plan by about a year, a little bit over a year, I guess. And so anyway, like obviously this already was in the plans once, and it ended up being pushed to Singapore. So who knows? Maybe that could happen again. But it seems like
that
Asia
sounds
is
like a
on the
con,
plans.
right? One major in 18 months sounds like a bit of a con right there. Prof, if you think you're hearing this news, what are the pros if you're leaping towards any? What are the pros that you see with this news?
I mean, obviously, it's a new region, which is good. I think just hitting a new market.
Could it be
so to
well
speak.
timed, do you think?
Obviously, that. I mean, it's already moving into the late in the season time frame, which everyone wants. So I think that's really good as well. But I think the time zones are going to be shitty. That's the bad part. I think.
I meant the timing for like CS2 coming out and then Asia
Yeah.
activating and then hopefully getting.
Of course, I mean, there's
eyeballs.
already quite a few fans there. Like, even though it's not the biggest game in China, there is a lot of people in China. So even
And they love their skins.
and they love their skin. So I don't see it as a bad thing. I think considering the countries that we are visiting with CS these days, I don't know why people are so upset about. Like, there are some people that are upset about China. I don't know. I don't know why.
We used to go there a lot in the past. We would have probably still gone if COVID hadn't caused concern in terms of some of the lockdown things in the last couple of years. It's one of these big regions that I'm sure the sponsors want to service, right? If you think we got Europe, we're going to have Asia, which is China's going to be a huge part, if not their own massive region, North America. I think the biggest con is probably the time zones. I saw a lot of comments from Europeans saying, it's not going to be great for the time zones.
I mean, it will not, right?
It's going to suck, man. It's like GMT plus 8.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole pitch, for majors, and the email that Valve sent out with their request for proposals, right? They were saying about how they have those 2 time slots that are peak time, and those majors should be held in a way where those 2 time slots can be met. Obviously, that's not going to happen with the latter one in China, because even the first one is like 10 p.m. in Shanghai. The 4 p.m. one is 10 p.m. in Shanghai.
I'm thinking about this though, like, and this whole concern that people have, and sure, it is going to be lower viewership numbers. That's no doubt, right? Like, that's just the way the cookie's going to crumble with this one here. Maybe they have to play like a late night game in China, right, to get a midday to afternoon time slot here. But I think that if you can have a successful event, and let's say that some Chinese teams or some Asian teams can kind of use that as their runway, and they can find some good results. And we're not talking win the event or anything here. We're talking a couple of underdog stories, maybe a couple of big upsets on home soil, maybe a top 8 if we're being crazy. But that could help be the perfect way to kick off CS2 and maybe some more eyeballs and everything for that region. And that sacrifice of having one major in that part of the world with a bad time zone would probably be worth it to activate an entire region of the game, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, there are also possibilities, opportunities that arise in terms of like different content, because you're not going to be able to watch all the games. There's going to be reasons to like consume other content during the off time, right? And like to catch up in the morning. So I feel like
look at you, he's thinking already.
Yeah, we need to start planning.
I mean, somebody has to be home for that one and follow throughout the night, or whatever. So
sure, or fly to Australia and watch it from down under. Get Gomez back on the phone. Let him do it.
I mean,
work for you guys.
It's obviously not ideal, but if there's, I guess, a place to do it that it's worth, I would say it makes sense for it to throw an event in China. It makes sense, I think, from like knowing Valve and Valve's perspective, and it's obviously been in the works for quite some time. With the rumors and everything.
Yeah, and I would say, especially with what you were broaching there, Striker, about events touch and go in this part of the world, I would keep that mindset with this one up until probably 6 months, and then reevaluate there, and then we'll know what the world looks like, because we know how volatile this travel can be, especially based off our experiences the last couple of years. So hey, it's one of those things. We have an idea this is coming, but whether it happens or not, it's a bit of a classic. We have to wait and see. All right. Anything else on this one here, gentlemen?
Not much.
No. Okay.
No.
Cool.
Did you see any feedback or comments that you thought were interesting about the China major?
No, there were just a lot of people who were unhappy with the time zone. A few people saying, the classic like this, it's the first major I'm not going to watch or whatever. Just a lot of that stuff, which is.
But I also saw a lot of people from Asia who are super happy, like quote tweeting it and replying and all that stuff. So I feel like it will activate a fan base that doesn't necessarily get to watch a lot of this stuff in their normal time zone, you know. So I think that's good.
I think the problem is, even though it can service the fan base which is there, which we know that the game isn't huge there, but it's still decent size. The problem is it's not a hugely accessible place for people around. I guess you can go into China on a tourist visa, right? As long as no, is it a transit visa? Maybe not a tourist visa. I think you can go. Maybe it's a transit visa where you get it's like 150 something hours, something crazy. So you'd have enough time to like, as long as the airport that you enter from is not the same airport that you're departing to. So it's not a return flight, if that makes sense.
Okay, got it.
I'm giving people loopholes on how to go into China for a couple of days.
I feel like you have some personal experience on this, almost like I remember the story personally.
One day we'll find out about that story, Prof. Not for now. I don't know what the limitations are on that, but we'll anyway. Moving swiftly on, the Hussar Cup has been postponed. Postponed. Would we say postponed?
I mean, not yet, but that is basically the plan.
Okay, so if this I don't hate, right? Because wasn't it going to be overlapping with other stuff that was going on?
I mean, there was first EPL group, you know, so it's like it's not a big deal necessarily in terms of like missing out on specific teams. Of course, like there's going to be like 3-4 big names that you maybe are going to miss out if you're going to overlap with an EPL group, but there's still going to be plenty of others that you can probably tap into if you want. I don't know if they were necessarily successful in that. I heard some of the names that they were looking into, and it wasn't the most
creme de la creme.
Definitely a prestigious team list in terms of the top teams. You know, some
for
of the
$1 million, you want the best, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure they would want as many of the top names as possible. But obviously, you know, if you overlap with EPL, that's not necessarily going to happen. The only weird thing that I thought was about it was that we've known where EPL would be for like I don't know how long, at least half a year. Like it's I think this cup was announced way after EPL was even put there like a year ago or whatever. So that is the weird part to me.
It's a little bit worrying though with that, right? That kind of shakes your faith on the $1 million tournament a little bit when you see like an oversight like this, doesn't it? You'll go, oh, okay. But I hope it's all good, and I hope they've rescheduled to an open weekend because we have time now, right?
Yeah, I mean, also it will help them get CS2 going, and because they were the ones who were like, oh, we're going to be the first big CS2 tournament, but at this point, you know, it is a month out. I think it is like it was supposed to be like late. August 30th was supposed to start. So let's say a month from now, there was supposed to be a CS2 tournament. I'm not certain that
touch and go.
It could work out, might not work out, you know. So if it's like a month later or whatever it is, like in that gap where there's just like Thunder Pick, I think is the only thing that's there in that month gap where the major was supposed to be originally, right? I assume they want to move it there just because that's the place where people have the least to play. So if it happens there, at least I can trust that there will be a CS2 tournament, or at least have some faith.
The thing is, for $1 million though, like if it is, it's put in one of these positions that we're talking about. You want to have like obviously 9 they're going to be there because they're Polish, but if you can make sure that you have the 7 other best teams in the world at that time, a little bit closer to, it's going to put a lot more eyeballs on the event, and that's what you want. And these teams want to be competing for this milli as well. So yeah, I hope it all works out. It is a little bit of a oopsie moment, I suppose. But other than that, it's not a big deal as long as it happens. Is that a fair assessment? We happy with that?
Yeah, I mean, if it changes to a better position, it could be literally one of the best tournaments in the year with, you know, depending on who comes, you know. It literally could be similar to like a Cologne in terms of the attending teams. And we know that wouldn't be in the current position, even though still, I don't know.
I mean, it's 18, not 16.
Yeah, okay, then fuck it. I don't know
but
why.
Still, even if you have like the best 8 and you know they're running,
it could be at least like a Blast Copenhagen style, you know, tournament, which
fun.
Could be pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump forward to the FORZE news. Alien's found a new home. Where was he at? But what happened to him before this? He kind of just whimpered off with the whole Entropic situation.
Literally dropped off the planet.
Yeah, and he stopped hitting shots. Wasn't that part and parcel of it? Like that team just kind of everybody lost their hands.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. Van Alien was the guy who we kind of thought was going to be at least maybe not the next big opera, but like just like one of those operas in CS that are putting up pretty good numbers, and suddenly he stopped. So I mean, just we haven't really seen him since the end of that Entropic project. So
someone said he was in K23. probably was. I just
Briefly,
don't remember.
yeah,
Like,
it
it's
was like a month or something. That's like he did not last long there. So it's kind of hard to judge that specific on. He was like with the Boston Crab mix as well, which was like had Flamey or something in that at some point, right? So I think like he's been around. It's just not really in anything stable.
nothing notable, nothing for people to be paying too much attention to. I think we have temporarily lost Prof here. So we will just go between the two of us and the second individual. Now, I was saying this to Prof before you got here, and if he listens and this is true, then that's great. If not, like I've confused him for the wrong guy. I think it's sstiNiX, right? Who's the other individual here? And I remember a couple years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, playing Face It when I used to live in the other place here in Malta, and this bloke was playing, and he was playing with another guy, and they were from like East Russia. Like, fucking may as well be. I think we were talking to Dimitri about this before, like Siberia or something, because he was playing on Face It servers 150 ping.
Jesus.
And but he seemed like a good kid. Like, you know, even with 150 ping, they were being serviceable. They were coming well. I remember him messaging me on Instagram or something after being like, hey, man, like they won't let us play in the Australian pugs or whatever, even because they get better ping from how far East Russia they were to Australian servers than they did elsewhere. So if this is the bloke, he was a good kid. He's only 18 though. So it seems to me like surely not, but maybe.
I mean, it could
maybe
be.
I'm completely wrong. But either way, that's a fun story about a guy from East Russia I pugged with once.
I mean, it could easily be that guy, because I was even looking through him when FORZE signed him, because this was not a person that it was at all on my radar or whatever. So I was curious. And he did play like in a team that was called Born in the East, and that had some of those East Russians, and they were playing against like Chinese teams early on, you know, in like 2 years ago. So that would fit with the timeline that you're talking about. So I don't know if he's since moved or what, because he's been playing
he must have. I think I saw him the other day with lower ping.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing against European teams, or he was playing against European teams with his latest team, which is, I don't know, it's just a random team that I've never really heard of or seen actually play. But I would imagine he's moved somewhere more favorable.
Yeah, more serviceable with the latency, I imagine. Okay, so FORZE, yeah. So the thing was as well, Crad, they're missing a fifth though, right? They don't have a fifth. Crad's not there either. It's Result.
I think it's kind of like a deal that's like they're looking for a replacement for him, but at the moment don't have one. So that's why they put him on a transfer list, see if there's going to be somebody interested, and in the meantime they're going to keep playing with him.
Okay, all right. So wait and see what so it's not even finalized yet over there from FORZE. Late to the dance on this one, but I guess it doesn't really matter. They have a bit of a different timeline than the top dogs. Okay, welcome back, Prof. How you feeling?
Hello. Am I working? I guess I am.
It's still a bit laggy.
I'm feeling awful. I'm feeling awful now.
But you just got off the holiday. You should be feeling, golden brown and relaxed, de-stressed. Don't let it get to you, man.
It's the first day back on the job. Just get instantly depressed. That's how it is.
It's a Saturday. Oh no, it's a Sunday. It's Monday tomorrow. If it was a Saturday, fuck. I gotta leave tomorrow. I gotta fly to Cologne. Nice.
What are you doing in Cologne?
It's to make me smell nice. Hey, there we go. Okay, so next bit of news, jumping over here. This one here, explain this one to me, Prof. I know you just got back, first day back on the job. Why have they added a Romanian to Movistar Riders?
Here we go. No one knows.
Especially
people
Spanish?
that actually read the article.
Here we go. See, this is the question everybody at home wanted the answer to.
Yeah,
and now we've got it.
He's been living in Spain and lives, so
okay.
he knows. He's played with Sampaio. Actually, he played with Davi G, right? The guy he replaced, who has honestly been very underwhelming whenever I watched Movistar. So I don't know much about the ADMS, but probably a good punt. Can't be worse kind of a feeling that I have with this change.
Well, they've obviously still got like the Mopos, Alex, Martinez trio, right? So didn't they just add Just? They had a Portuguese fella. We were talking about him just the other week. So that happened not long ago. So 2 roster changes in a short stint of time here for the Movistar Riders. Yeah. But wasn't it this time last year that they were looking quite strong? A little bit earlier this time last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, well this time last year they lost Sampaio, right? So
yeah, okay. So it was for Cologne, there was a good Cologne run, and then it's all gone wrong. So it's been a year of kind of fuck. Yeah, they've had to make a lot of adjustments. There's been a bit of a free fall when you look at that reflection, right? We knew it was going to be a big hit. They were all kind of hyped up on this Martinez guy, but then since then there's been a couple of roster changes and they just haven't been able to find that. I guess that's what we expected. Which kind of is exactly what we expected.
Yeah. They're still playing in Pro League and they've they've done some okay stuff online, just not the same way like as before. They still won. What was it, Melbourne? Right? I think they won. So it's not like it's been terrible
Rings a
for.
bell.
Yeah. They won Melbourne. That's how they even got to this upcoming Pro League. So it's not like they've been terrible. They've still been kind of on the radar in the tier 2, just not the same potency, you know, especially like compared to that Cologne run.
Okay. I was thinking, and this has got nothing to do with Movistar Riders. I was just thinking about players in general in recent time. Put a tweet out the other day about like, you know, which bench/free agent players, you know, could you make a good roster with? And there were a lot of people replying with a lot of Danish names and a lot of like Russian names. I think like the best team that you can make right now would be like benched or free agent Russian players for sure. I think the Danish ones seem a little bit underwhelming when I look at some of the names. Like I'm wondering where there's good like pieces to teams. But I'm just curious of like which would be the next players to get the firepower out of. You could put a bunch together, but it'd be like kind of making North in the modern generation.
Yeah, I mean you could also. I mean, if there was a talent, if there was talent that you can get and that's not expensive, you know, Astralis would already jump on that one. You know, so they spent such a long time getting there, but there's just nobody who's willing to switch or has the end of the contract for. To Astralis, so it's not like Denmark in terms of free agents is super rich at the moment.
Yeah, it's just like you could have Glaive and Dupree, you know, there's a Nikodos out there.
Yeah,
you know, there's it's Eifenstall and Sprout, right? So there's some names kicking about. What's Esatag up to? But this is the thing, you're talking about older players who can you get enough out of. So I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, definitely the roster that we spoke about, this was a while ago, Prof, considering you know how long you were gone for, that Bet Boom team, the Nafany Chiron one. I feel like any configuration of like a Zorti, Nafany, Chiron, you're already off to a really good start. You get Siren in there. You have some really fun names to make teams within that part of the world.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say, I mean, there are so many of them. Other than that, I don't know. Like the whole like TSM rumored project is not sounding super exciting. I saw
that's where Cypher has to be going, right?
Like I think Searson just like tweeted like you know, signed something. So can be okay, but it doesn't. Whatever else needs to be like some international project, then has to have like a bit of X factor to it. You know, we're kind of hoping that something's going to happen. There's no really safe great picks, unlike that like Nafany Zorti kind of combination where you really have a good IGL op combo.
I want to return to what you were talking about just there with the TSM thing. Do you think that like, because if they are actually coming into Counter-Strike, do you think they've been advised on the fact that like if they don't have a partner spot in Blast or in ESL's Louvre agreement, that it's like a really hard graft and like their exposure is not guaranteed? Like they have to perform.
Honestly, this might be the worst time to enter CS. With what
doesn't
Striker
feel like
said,
a good time.
No, what Striker said, like 18 months for one major seems like an awful, and especially with, well, I don't know. There has been the whole report that Richard Lewis put out about like partner teams, uncertainty, blah blah. It's like it seems very, you know, up in the air.
Well, the
not really
pressure
certain.
is applied though from Valve, right, for these partner leagues. The change could be
positive or none. Yeah,
it could just be as simple as, well, we'll keep partner teams, but we'll just add more open spots.
Yeah,
which could be good for the rest of the scene, right?
Yeah, but just saying the majors are the biggest money generator for orgs. So like with it being now like at least the reports for the China major being so far, and the next one also being far further than it usually is, just seems like not the optimal time for a team. Like, okay, maybe you have a good opportunity with some good players, you have budget right now, then you go for it. But if you had the last year to go in and you didn't go, why now? Like this is much worse than like so many opportunities that they had in the past. So that's for me kind of.
You should just wait until probably 3 or so months before the next major.
Yes.
And then jump on what is the hottest prospect at the time. Or if there's a team that is part of like an org, like a Bad News Eagles, for example, that are just like self-owned in a way, that then you could come in with a decent amount of money and swoop and take and get the major appearance and everything like that. Like that would be the better idea. Doing it now is kind of nonsensical.
I mean, I think actually doing it now is kind of a place where you have some time to ramp up and just to switch out some members that maybe didn't work out in the first place. I mean, we know that
team looking like Cirrus and Cypher, right? Those two.
We're talking about TSM, right? At this point,
yeah. Like I don't know what's been rumored over there. Like, is Jax one of the names?
That was the Jax.
Is Xtaz the team? Is Xtaz the coach? Like,
Yeah, he's supposed to be building it at least. I mean, my point is, like, let's say you're just not talking about TSM specifically, but let's say you're just building a team from scratch, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're not expecting to build a team from scratch that just will qualify for a major in 3 months' time. Like,
No.
that's just not how it works usually. Like, you will need, let's say, half a year to ramp up. Maybe in that time you'll figure out, okay, this piece did not work out, and for this and that reason, we'll switch him out. And so by that time, we're gonna get around to the first CS2 major, and maybe they will qualify for that one, and that will already, like, let's say they don't spend so much time on this roster, but just qualify for that one. That's fine. That's enough. But for the next one, they will have another 9 months to switch out a couple more players and just to keep working at the lineup. Because, like, at this point, I don't remember the last time somebody put together a brand new team, and then ended up being super competitive. Everything is kind of momentum, from previous versions, and just like you make that one change that finally clicks in, and that's what takes you to the next level. So I think, like, building teams with the idea that, okay, in 6 months' time we're going to qualify for a major, and that's the goal now, or especially do well at a major. I mean, that's fairly unrealistic, I would say.
I do, again, it just dials me back into like the expectation of what TSM have been sold. Like, I hope that they don't just expect to be able to come in the next. Like, they must know when the next major is. They must know, like, hopefully. We don't want any more, bad investment that gets pulled after a year, because that just hurts everybody, right? So, all right, we digressed off of the recent news. Should we keep moving? Should we move into talking a bit
let's
about
go.
Blast? All right. Let's recap, I think, as we go through each team here, their run, the teams that they played against and everything, just because...
and then 30 minutes about G2, please.
Well, we can start with G2. This is the thing. I don't mind talking about G2. We can start with them. We can finish with them. We can have them in the middle. It doesn't really matter too much. But let's take a look here. We can just talk about it in general. The event, is about a 2-week affair. We have plenty of matches. This last bit of the weekend has been great to see the teams who are getting locked in for the fall finals, right, which are going to be taking place in the Royal Arena in Copenhagen. It's a banger event every year. It always has a very lovely turnout there. But the teams that were able to lock themselves in was Heroic. Right? They were able to get in. Vitality were able to get in. Na'Vi, the most recent team, able to get themselves in. NIP, I think they're one of the biggest shocks getting in. Who am I forgetting here?
FaZe and Astralis.
Oh, that's right. And Astralis. If we had G2 maker, I think all the teams with Danish representation they were talking about something on the desk would have all been able to make it in there.
Right. Yeah.
Let's start with NIP Striker, because we spoke about him last time around.
I mean, nothing happened since the last time around.
That's right. It had just finished as we started. It was perfectly timed. Okay.
What did you say? What did you say about NIP? I didn't catch up.
I mean, we were just talking about kind of the team in
parts.
general, rather than like that specific result. Just because, I mean, we all know that blast groups aren't necessarily the most.
So, do you not like the team, or do you like the team, or what's going on?
I mean, you have 4 pieces that kind of want to do the same thing a lot of the time. At least 3 of them, So it's just hard for them to. And there were interviews during the blast groups that they are struggling to find who will take some of the weird spots.
I saw Config saying something about that, playing like underpass on, on overpass.
Exactly. Like you have Config playing a stationary spot. I mean, that's not where you want Config to be, essentially, for most of the time. So
I think the thing is, those are like the difficulties and the hurdles they're going to have, right? In that sense of being able to put the round peg in the square hole, being able to try and make that fit, or the square peg in the round hole, or however the saying goes, regardless. But these are
never
skilled...
heard that before, by the way.
Well, anyway, these are skilled players, right? These are very skilled individuals. Our biggest question with them is consistency. That has been the question with all of these names over the last couple of years, especially the likes of Brolin, Config, and Rez. I think Hedrick definitely had some good patches and some good streaks, and even late in some of the games that they had, which is nice to see. Like, he seems handy. Having Hampus back in the server as well was good. I think this is a positive win going into, like, it could have been worse. You could have not qualified. That would have been worst case, not qualified. That would have been it. This is best case.
I mean, that was kind of almost expected, I would say, from NIP to not qualify.
So to qualify and to have like Brolin have a good series to beat Vitality, that's a confidence booster right there for him. So excuse me, you look at how this moves forward for NIP. They get to carry this momentum and see if they can replicate that. So it's a better place for them to be. It's a place that shows them, hey, maybe if we are playing some of our better Counter-Strike, that we can take advantage of some of these more top dogs. But it's about getting the consistency from their players and understanding whatever the recipe was for them working there. Because this is the flip side of what I'm saying. great. It's a confidence win for them and everything. But you look at it, we stack up all of these things. Start of the season, players getting back in the server. You know, they're not all going to be individually as sharp as they need to be. Going to be a little bit slower with the comms and the moving around the map. New players in some of these teams. This group, every team had at least one player that was changed, right? And EG, they actually were 4 players from the same team joining the main roster and automatic state. Regardless, there was each with one roster change. So everyone had things a little bit different. So when you add all those things into the equation, you would say that no team at this event was probably playing at 100%. Right? I think that you wouldn't say the first event out of the season, this team is playing at 100%. You would, you know, teams are working out where they're at. Teams who are trying to figure out where they're at, they're nowhere near 100%, right? They're probably lower than 50% in some of these games, right? So for NIP, good signs, need to be able to carry that. But the question is, can they find that consistency? And that's what we're going to find out coming up very soon. So yeah,
I mean, just
NIP,
the fact that Brolin finally had like a big series is great. Like that's been so long since I remember seeing that. So that's a good sign, and maybe just Campus returning can instigate Brolin to be like more of a factor essentially on the server. Like he was really, I don't want to say abysmal, but like for his roles and for what he is like talent wise, it was abysmal.
Yeah, one thing that I did notice throughout like the NIP games and some of the interviews and stuff that was coming out over the course of the fall groups was about it kind of seemed like it ended up being DJL, I guess, and Calc's kind of pick on who they were going to keep as the in-game leader here. And I would imagine that DJL and Hampus's relationship probably was a big factor into Hampus getting the call back up here, right? Knowing like what kind of atmosphere maybe Hampus brings, or the type of leader, or how they can work together and stuff. Not that it's worked out poorly, because Na'Vi just beat G2 and qualified for the full finals, which is great. But yeah, it's not that it didn't click at the time. It's just like that of course that makes a big sense. Like the leadership structure of the team. And Hampus, it's good to see Hampus.
I mean,
back
also
in the
big collapse that an IP had against Apeks that like leaves such a sour taste in your mouth for like essentially the ideal position. Like it has to come down to Alexi B to some degree, and they had the opportunity to make the switch. It's not like they had to buy someone new. So I think that's kind of what you do when you have the opportunity. Similarly with Vitality picking up Flames, they just had the opportunity and they went for it. If they had to pay him like $200,000 or something for a buyout, they probably wouldn't do it. But since he was free, then you go for it.
Do you want to leap over to Vitality here? I guess you just mentioned them. We can talk about them. They managed to beat Big a little bit earlier today, and that seemed like it wasn't too much of an issue there. They got that done 2-0. It was a little bit more labored, I guess, on Anubis. Then there was some weird moments of it, but this is Vitality adding a new piece and getting the job done. Like this is the thing. I really have such a hard time being overcritical of teams getting the job done.
Let's just. I mean, you said everything about the format, but like the format in itself is just so uncompetitive.
But these games mattered. They were entertaining today.
Yeah,
today's last game was entertaining because something mattered, right?
But that's why, like, I feel like watching the last 3 days gives you more than watching like the first 5 or 7 days of competition. Even so, there's not that big of a sample size on these teams, and realistically, someone like Vitality, I feel like to get Flames and to use Flames properly, they're going to need quite a bit of time. I would say, because the way they want to use them right now, and what the Apeks was saying is like, we're just kind of giving him minimal thinking and like input. He's just like, plug in and do his own thing. I think you're going to get a lot more from Flames if he is more active and vocal, and has a bit more of a role in how they're playing. From what I see now, like he is on a lot of like bomb sites with Apeks, so I don't think he will have a lot to say, right, to input onto the team. But like at the end of the OG stint, when everything was kind of fucked, he was like calling for them quite a bit, and he was Nexa even said it in the interview recently that like he was the secondary caller, almost the only guy on OG that was like adding something to the team. So I think there is a lot more that they can get from Flames than they're going to be getting for the first month. And now it's just going to be kind of figuring out how to do the basics, and that's what most of the Blast group stage was, just like playing the basics and not making less mistakes, even though everyone was still making them, right?
Yeah, and I think like that's key, and I think that's probably the expectation, right? Like everybody knew Flames coming in, he's a very skilled player, right? There was no doubt about that. We all know what he can bring to the table, and it's going to take you. If you're Vitality, the thing you want to avoid is skipping a beat. It's like you want to make sure you're still as competitive as you were before, or maybe just a little bit less, and you know what you can still like take your shots at trophies when they come. But the idea that he's going to be as good as he could be in 6 months' time now with the team, like that's not the case, right? So that's the thing. The runway as well is, I guess, the runway is the next major, like, or is it just win everything in the interim for a lot of teams? Because you're for a top dog team right now. Is it just hoard as many trophies until the next major as you can? Because it's
I mean,
quite
it's
a
more
long
like
time.
until like, I mean, everybody's kind of working on short term, and like it's really hard for people to make such big plans just because of CS2 around the corner. And it's like, how do you set a realistic goal? You know, like we
Yeah, I
want
guess
to
it's
be
just win
good.
now.
You want to be great in CS2. Like how are you going to make that, like how are you going to make that a realistic goal now when you don't even know how CS2 is going to look like by the time it comes out, and what teams are going to be good, what's play styles are going to work out, you know, things, all of these things, you know. So at this point, it's kind of like, okay, we want to win Cologne. How about that? Let's start there.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess that may as well. That may everyone, you just strike while the iron's hot. Like if you start the season good and you're looking sharp, I think this is the thing where the status quo isn't really set in Counter Strike at the moment, right? Like it's still one of these scenarios where Vitality and Heroic are the two best teams in the world right now, right? I think that's we're happy with that. And then outside of that, you have this like pack of teams who have these very skilled individuals who, if everybody is playing good Counter Strike and the calls are going well, they can have these dents, right? I think maybe I need to put a bit more respect on like a name of Ents, who are probably, you know, one step ahead of like a FaZe or a G2 at the moment. Cloud9, we're saying they're going to be good, but however they fit into this, we don't fucking know.
Yeah.
You know, so it's hard to speculate forward with those guys as well. But I think it's one of these things where it's not clear cut who should win. Right? There are teams that are more likely to go deep and more likely to have good runs, but that doesn't mean that they, you know, they should win. I don't, at least I don't think so. Do you guys feel like I know we're going to talk about Cologne soon, but do you guys feel like there's like a hard favorite? You'd be happy just, you know, calling it?
I mean, it's always hard, man. Like, of course, Heroic is going to be the one that's always going to be vying for it, and like everybody else is kind of fair game at this point, just because of the sheer amount of changes, and like, let's say FaZe and G2 not necessarily being in the best shape, who were like the next two
We've been
maybe
saying that
teams
for
or
a
next
while
few
now, haven't
teams.
we?
That's the thing, yeah. I mean, we've been saying and they haven't really been competitive for titles for a while now either, you know. So that's the point. Like these teams that are kind of like in the top 5. And especially if you look further, like all of them change. Gamer Legion, Liquid, Cloud9, Apeks, Virtus Pro, MOUZ, Monte, NIP. Literally the next 8 teams after it ends, after the top 5 changed. So like we are heading into this Cologne, like having like a reasonable idea of like which teams are going to be okay. But like, what do we know about a bunch of these teams that we haven't even seen play? And it's like ENCE could start out even slow, you know, into the season, because it's going to be the first thing that they play in Cologne, you know? So it's very, very up in the air. I mean, Heroic and Vitality, I suppose you can kind of make a safe bet on, but everybody else is just fair game.
Yeah, it is going to be pretty wild like that. Okay, I took us a little bit off topic there. Let's get back to what we learned. I want to talk about Big, because I saw someone like make a comment somewhere. Maybe it was when we were doing the podcast last time. Maybe it was a Twitter comment. Regardless, doesn't matter. They were saying, saying about me not liking German Counter-Strike or Big. I think it's because last time around when the Big stuff was there, I was just like, and like that was my response. And the reason it's like that is not because of the players in the server or the type of Counter-Strike they're even trying to play, is because of how miserable the start of the season is for them as a team, right? They've brought Man2 in, right? They get to play this event, the groups. They get 2 weeks of getting to sit there together, playing Counter-Strike, trying to bring this new roster together. Fuck yeah. And around the corner is their home event, which they had to use a little backdoor key to access, right, with the fucking academy team to get in. But they got in. Now they get to go to the fucking place where all the Germans love going to watch the Counter-Strike, the Cathedral, Cologne. It's going to be happening. They get to go. But Man2, who just went plus 24 today against Vitality, doesn't get to play because of this little academy roster thing. So they have to use Sensei, and that just fucking sucks.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
man, that's why I'm going, because
because at this point, who cares about this team until they play in that lineup, right? Like obviously they played in groups, but okay, so we have to wait until what is it, Pro League probably?
Yeah, probably. What are they?
Or Gamers 8? Are they Gamers 8? I don't think so.
I don't bother.
They're not. They're not.
Yeah, probably Pro League.
So Pro League then.
And that sucks, man. Like, because Man2 looked good today. And I think the thing is that people kind of forgot about Man2. He got replaced for Degster, but he was a stable AWPer. Like, he was a get the job done for you AWPer. Like, it wasn't like Mantu was a guy who I was going, oh, he misses a lot of shots. I didn't feel like he took the most initiative to be the most impactful as other AWPers. And that's one of the reasons I think he got replaced by Dexter on that team. But I still think that Mantu is a solid, like, he does the job that you need him to do. And he showed that today.
Bro, he didn't play for a year. I mean, this is probably kind of best case scenario if you're looking at him. It's not like he was amazing in every game, but he was ramping up, and by the end, he actually had a really solid series against Vitality. The team as a whole wasn't necessarily so competitive, but for him to have this kind of a showing after such a long time away from like officials and things like that, I think that's best case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, Monte always kind of reminds me. Monte and OG is kind of like Hades and Ents. That's kind of how I see it. Like, they're okay. They weren't really like super carrying games, but they also weren't like, they were never really shit. Like, okay, maybe Hades had some like bad playoff big games against like super big teams, but like on average, they were doing pretty good, and the teams weren't really running around them. Like, you can never know with these players, like, how would it change if the focus was more on them. And there's always like a kind of a 50-50 responsibility in like the AWPer giving space or not taking space, and the team, you know, not giving the space or taking it away from the AWPer. And usually there's a reason why the AWPer doesn't have, you know, why Monte doesn't have enough the same amount of space as Simple does or whatever. But I think he was always solid, and coming into big, it seems like a type of team that would fit him, because it is quite, everyone knows what they're doing. There's always going to be a place for him to do plays, and obviously they have been in like a weird spot for some time with all of the roster changes, and now still like there's this whole thing that like Sin was going to be the IGL. And I think
what's going on with that?
They said that, but then there was an interview with tabseN, and tabseN is like, oh, I'm actually calling, and Sin is like second. It's like 2 days ago he said a different story. So and then now they're going to change an AWPer for Cologne, and then they're going to go back, and it just seems, at least it's a good sign to see the Monte like in form, because we didn't know what kind of form he's going to show up after a year away. But yeah, as you said, it doesn't really get us too excited, especially with all of these new players that none of them really stepped up. I looked up stats for the whole group stage, and like tabseN was for them the highest entry percentage on the team. And I'm like, what is this about? Like, why is this happening? Like, why is he now running in first on T side as well? Like, mainly it was him. So it doesn't seem like they really have another star there on the team. Like, it should be Monte, tabseN, and then one of the other guys.
Don't you think it's Crimbo?
Like, he's trying to be, but I don't know. I don't really see him yet as that. I see him more like, you know, third to fourth probably. But if tabseN is not going to be, you know, star tabseN, then this team has no chance, in my opinion.
That's the thing. Like, if the idea was to like have Sin in game lead to free up tabseN to let him be
that's kind of how it felt, right?
Yeah, but hasn't the ship sailed? Like, isn't tabseN, does he still have it?
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, because that's the question. Because I think Crimbo's pretty good. He needs to be better if they want to win. Like, he needs to break out even more. But I think he's good.
tabseN did touch that 28-year mark, which is kind of a drop off line for a lot of players. So we'll see.
All right, so we'll have to wait and see with that. All right, let's have a look here. What else did we learn from Blast that we wanted to talk about here? Because we're going to talk about a lot more of this stuff when we do the Cologne preview, because this will be. You want to talk about G2? Yeah, we can talk about G2.
Let's talk about G2.
So,
you had JKS and Fantasy, you said?
Yeah, I did.
How'd that serve you?
He went positive in terms of points, but just not enough to even make it a worthwhile appearance in the Fantasy for me. I managed to only come top 56% with a measly 4 points. Damn. So that's not great.
Sucks to suck.
Yeah, it does. It really does. But I watching them play, right? The EG game being close and they eked it out. For me, that was an opportunity for this team. And it was an opportunity for this team to realize that, hey, like, things aren't amazing right now. Like, the energy doesn't look super high. Doesn't look like everything's flowing in at the best of ways. But to use that EG save or that EG scare as, like, you know, the motivation going into the next game to qualify for the playoffs, right? Get themselves into that arena event and then have a nice little positive runway for Cologne. Now, again, like I said, with the Vitality victory, even though, you know, they lost the series to NIP, difficult to critique, especially the teams that didn't change or had few changes when you look at the circumstances of the event and how. But today's match mattered, and it still looked like their heart wasn't as in it as their opponent. Like Na'Vi definitely looked like they wanted to win. G2, I could tell they wanted to win. It just didn't. Don't know. It doesn't feel right. The energy feels off. It just, I don't know. It's hard to put my finger on it. But there's like so many sloppy things in games. Moments of brilliance, like Nico just body bag and having these. Like the EG game was stupid. But I don't know.
Then he has a game where he kind of just doesn't really have that impact, right? So it's just the same with G2. Like at the beginning of the year, when they were competitive, it just was, first of all, a moment of where everybody else was a little bit weak, and second of all, they just had all the individuals firing at the same time. I mean, JKS finally found that place in the team, right? And so in that place, HooXi doesn't have to put up some amazing numbers. You just have 4 players, and probably at least 2 of them will put up big numbers, and a third of them is going to join them most of the games. But now you don't see that. Like now you see, okay, there's an eco game, there's a massive, then there's a big game where only Hunter is there, and like Nico is not, even though over the course of the tournament he was there. So it's like some of these games I don't really understand why they have such a big problem individually.
It is weird, right? And it's not always the same. Like for HooXi, yeah, more often than not, HooXi's having a really rough day at the office. And you're right. If the other 4 players are going to play like their 85% to 100% game, like between the range of the 4 of them, they're all playing in that range, then this team is going to be pretty hard to put away. But if these guys aren't, and they're missing shots or having slow starts or having no impact on lurks or not winning the clutches that they're put in position to do or not hitting the AWP shots, then it just looks like.
I mean, with how they play, like, I mean, you usually have two lurkers, and then HooXi is the one who's kind of running in, and a lot of the time he just doesn't get that first kill, so they always have to trade him. And if they don't trade him, that means that the round is kind of over, unless Nico does something on the other side of the map, or Hunter does something from the other lurk, things like that. So it is so individualistic that unless you have at least 2 people really on fire, you're going to struggle playing against some of these better teams.
Yeah, I think as well, it needs to be noted that it was 2 16-14 games, right? It was Inferno and Mirage, which is pretty common ground here. But with that in mind, still, it was like G2 had to come back into both of them, right, to try and make the games competitive. So they got mega close. They would have still had to have played overtime, so there's no guarantee that they would have even won those maps. But they were the ones who had to try and fight back into the games, which was good to see them fight back. But then if you're going to have those games, that's when the key pieces in these superstar teams, that's when you have like a massive, Rops round or a massive Brokey pushing through a molly or in a smoke and doing something wild. And I thought in today's matchup especially, somebody who was on form was Simple, who the key for me wasn't just like some of the flashy like repeaks or whatever in window. There's one round that sticks out to me. It's the round they were like executing B on Inferno, and Monte sees towards Coffins. He blocks the smoke and then tries to play around it. He gets 1 kill, and then Simple trades him like as soon as he gets that kill straight to the smoke. Yeah. One of the things that Simple did today really well was punish those plays, because one of the things that G2 likes to go for is they're confident in their individuals. So they're going to take these fights and think that they can get this kill and get out. And Simple was punishing them in a couple of those occasions. So for Monte, who's normally a rascal, gets one, gets out, gets a new position, maybe gets one more, makes your life a nuisance. If he's getting punished like that, then yeah, he is going to have a series where he goes -4, right? He didn't have a great series. JKS didn't have a great series. As we said, HooXi, more often than not having a great series. So today against Na'Vi, it's like you look at the one match, it was entertaining. Like today's game, when I just look at that, entertaining. But when it doesn't look right for G2, it just feels like it feels like unstable ground.
I don't know. It just doesn't feel like this lineup has a long future. Like it seems,
but they're old too, right?
Seems like
they're an old lineup.
Seems like we saw what we can see from G2, and everyone else is making changes to become better. Like
then G2 peaked. This roster's peaked.
Yeah, I think like even if they can find form again, I don't think that's going to be, for their appetites, I don't think that's going to be enough.
Okay. You know what gets crazy? Because now with the status quo of Counter-Strike and going forward, now that Na'Vi is also international and you've had a couple of other teams go down that fashion, the next roster mania, because now you're saying like G2 maybe changes. You think the next roster mania, think about how
long is Nico's contract again? Maybe that Na'Vi offer can come in. Or,
hey,
when
Nico,
he
Simple
contract.
Imagine.
I mean, he signed in
2020. Oh, this is mine.
Right?
22, Nico and Hunter extend for a fuck ton years and a half. I forgot what it was. It was for long, I think.
Yeah,
so not gonna happen anytime soon.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. What it's a bold statement to make that you feel that this G2 roster has peaked, but I think the results would have to be different to
The thing is,
put
like,
you
this is the thing. How do they get back into it? How do they get back? Like,
for me,
do you
the
think
problem is they're going to carry the mental baggage of this, like just a negative kind of cloud, because we go straight into Cologne. They only have a couple of days, right? So they'd have to shrug this off pretty quickly. And a team which, it's quite clear to see when they do get a little bit down and frustrated, they need to. This is the thing. Back in the day, right? Back in the day when it was a little bit more raw and it was just like the five dudes. Our in-game leader Boomzer used to get mega mad at us. Or not mega mad at us. It was like, the baggage that builds up between you and like other people when you don't like speak about everything honestly. That kind of happens in Counter-Strike because why didn't this guy flash at me, or why is this guy doing this, or this, that, and the other, and it builds up like in-game stuff, out-of-game stuff, the way people talk to each other. This cunt's on fucking Steam friends while I'm doing this. Anyway, we'd have these massive blow-ups like a night before these matches. Like we're all yelling at each other in a room at like fucking 3 o'clock in the morning, having breakdowns, crying and talking about like being vulnerable men with each other and stuff. And finally it all comes out. The next day you go on the server and you will trust each other again. And the call's made and you're covering the corner and your teammate gets the kill and you get this kill and it's like fucking perfect. So what I'm saying is G2, lock yourself in a room, go apeshit at each other, cry together, come out, be open, be honest, and get in the server. And that's probably going to be the answer. Doesn't sound healthy. Now that I've said it all,
No.
Can I take it all back? I take it all back. Let's rewind. Lucky this isn't live or anything.
It's like have the Navi treatment or whatever.
No, but it was great. Like I think they're obviously, not awesome at the time when it's all happening, but the results from the Booms and method, we seem to have success
new
more
mental
often than not.
coach for G2 Booms. I see that as a video already.
No, but it worked. It actually worked. Like it was unorthodox. I wouldn't recommend it to a friend, but it worked. It was something. It was something special.
Yeah, I don't know how they turned around. Like HooXi's individual form is bad, and even when they were winning, it wasn't great. But he wasn't as big of a liability as he was now. And like the whole opening thing argument, where are the stats? I have it somewhere here. It's like opening win percentage, opening duel win percentage is like 26%. Like that's, and he's taking a lot of opening duels. So that's immediately starting you off on a bad foot. And I said this before, I don't think he goes for opening duels in the way a modern player does to actually get the duel. Like he sets himself up to die and be traded.
Yes.
And I think it's never going to work. If he doesn't change that, it's not going to be good enough. And then everyone else, like, okay, Nico's in great form. Monte had some like weird, some weird, like the first half of the year, I would say he was great, but he needs to like get back to that consistency.
Well, they pointed out that he like farms the lower teams, and then he started off against EG like farming them right on the first map. And it looked like it was going to be all over, and then he just fucking cooled. And it's like, well, yeah, those other games where you expect an AWP to take over because the other team is a bit sloppier, like they're over peak or they don't have the flash for that angle and stuff. And
let's just to be clear, like when I say peaked, I don't think peaked as in they're just going to be bad forever. And I don't think like this tournament was super bad for them. They lost to Navi, they lost to FaZe, and they lost to Liquid. These are not like, oh my god,
decent names. Yeah.
Like I think they can still win tournaments this year with this exact lineup, but I don't think they'll be the number one team. I don't think they're going to win, the next major without any radical changes about how they play, which I just don't see how it's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. We're an hour into the show. Let's run an ad break. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on the blast stuff and we'll get into the Cologne preview. Dimitri, you ready for that? Let's go.
It's a good vibe, train. It's a good vibe, train. It's a good vibe, train. Good vibe, train.
Best esports odds, VIP program and a variety of bonuses, fast and easy withdrawals. Bet on every possible CSGO match and tournament, as well as any other esports game. only on 22Bet.
We may as well continue to talk about Blast while we wait for the return of Mr. Prof. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about here from what you saw across the course of this weekend? There was also the FaZe Liquid game, right? That was yesterday evening, I do believe.
I mean, if you want to just continue along the same line, I mean, where we left off with Navi, I think that's a good place to go, because I think, you know, where we ended last time, it was like kind of like you can't expect this new Navi to beat Heroic, you know, and then they go and they get pretty fucking close. I mean, they were really competitive in that series. So I think, I mean, you can tell that there's a lot of pressure on him at the moment to do well from his positions, because I think he's kind of up and down.
So though, right?
Of course, I mean, he is in a lot of the like super high impact positions, but also like high risk. So it is going to come down to him now, especially because you can tell that some of the same protocols that, you know, Navi for, you know, they just don't have some of those set up yet. I mean, they clearly haven't played enough to be able to, but there are games, you know, and especially that Heroic one, like it was on ughhhhh, I think, where he was getting a lot done, like in that decider, you know. Obviously they lost it in the end, but there was a lot thanks to him sometimes, you know, that they got pretty close to making that comeback happen, you know. Like in the end it was something like 12-10 where it just started going the other way. It felt like Emil was finally finding some impact from his positions, because before that he was
it wasn't
a
great.
bit up
It
and
wasn't
down.
great, yeah. But that's the thing as well, right? Like simple having a great performance today, I think is one of the keys for me. But alongside that is Emma as well finding his impact, because today showed if Simple is playing really well, like how the team can look, and you kind of even forget about some of the other names, right? You just like, oh shit, Simple's fucking doing it again. That's been another question that people have had. It's like, well, is Simple on the decline here? Have we seen the best of him, or is better years behind him? And if he can have performances like he did today, right? He looked hungry for it today. It was good to see. So that's a nice little booster right there. We ended up back on Navi. How did I do that? How did I end up here? How did I do that?
Did we talk about Navi? What
Not
did you say about
particularly,
that?
no.
We could talk about
We're talking
Navi.
about G2. We're talking about
Well,
G2.
we could talk about no. I don't know, Prof. You've been in and out. It's throwing off my mojo, man. Are you sure you just everyone take a breath here? We're gonna have to recenter. You know, there's a lot going on. You know, sometimes you're doing a major and there's a guy coming and changing your headset literally during the grand final major cast. You know, sometimes these things happen. So let's take a breath. Striker can look at his cats.
Man, I am taking
Why do you have
my
two of them?
mom's. Well, I had one. My girlfriend's been kind of trying to persuade me to get my mom's one, because that's not really working out at her home. And there's kind of like a test run going on at the moment, which is probably going to bring down the apartment.
Yeah, well, they go
Because
nuts.
They are going a bit nuts at the moment.
Yeah, they fight each other and shit. It's crazy, man. Like they start
It's,
whacking each other. My girlfriend's got two cats. You can't sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning because the boy cat decides the best way to get attention for food is to go and fuck up the girl cat, go and punch it around a bit. They're jumping up all the curtains and shit. They're fucking everywhere all over the house.
This is more like the opposite. Like the girl is kind of, because she's the one who I had for the past, let's say, 3 weeks. So she's kind of territorial. He came in today. And I mean, they've been fighting for the past hour or so throughout this show, you know. So I'm just like listening and checking in if they're still alive.
All right. Well, as long as your office supplies aren't damaged, we know the resale value on stolen office goods is at a
There is
premium these
something.
days. So that's an exhaust fan from an air conditioner, Prof.
Oh, okay.
Well, not
we
exhaust
already
fan,
covered
exhaust
this?
pipe. Exhaust
We
pipe.
covered this in previous episodes.
Well, we don't know where this came from. Did you steal this?
Let's say no.
Okay. So you
It's
acquired
just
this
borrowed, long-term borrowed,
along with the
AC.
cat. He borrowed the cat, and now he's into animal. Okay, I don't know. There's probably a term for that. There you go. It's exposed now. Look at this. This is it's all happening. Glasses, tissues, all the good stuff. Anyway, we're getting way too off topic here. Let's get back to where we were. Do we want to talk about Navi? Do we want to do them in the preview for the next? Like, because it's always going to blur into one, right? It's all going to blur. into one.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
We can do that.
Is there anybody who is not at Cologne who is in the groups that we haven't spoken about? OG there, bigger there.
EG, probably.
EG, yeah. I look. Maybe we should talk about EG because I think that like this is the thing. The whole organizational side has been trashed continuously by the community on all fronts. They've been trashed in the server, which is the reason they've been trashed everywhere else. But these guys looked all right. Like they actually had a bit of bang to it. Junior's looking okay. Like obviously, if you're going to lose, they're going to get blown out. You look at the stats; it doesn't look great. But you look at a couple of like the games that they played, the way they're approaching some of the matches. Some of the decision making, some of the calling from Walco, like it's like okay, yeah. Like I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying they're a fucking top 20 team in the world or anything. I'm just saying it's all right. Like, and what EG are fulfilling, it's great, right? It's actually a North American team. It's not great for the competition of Blast Fall groups.
I mean,
man, is it
maybe
fucking crazy that Nico had to pull off that to beat EG?
Yeah, it is. It is kind of crazy.
Can somebody explain that to me? I mean, I was watching the game and I still didn't understand why.
Why he had to? I don't know.
No,
either.
why he had to do that? That's the problem. Like
this is one of the things that you know it's an old chattism talking, but it's one of these games that you go into, and if everybody in your team is expecting to win because the other team are nowhere near as good as you, and everybody's giving less than 100%, like it just starts to bleed in, and you get more frustrated when you're dying because like, well, we're dying to these fucking noobs, like, and then Hex
you were
is there yelling
with,
at you.
Junior, no.
Yeah, Junior was pretty good. I thought, you know, this is it. We get the second coming of Junior in a way, and he was serviceable. But the thing is, it's like there's no real North American team for him to go to now, and they don't really need a bit of complexity. HooXi's there, so I think you know at the moment this is going to be the best team he can play for. So, some good moments from some of the players there. Automatic just being solid. I think that was the expectation. Some of the newer boys hit and miss, but other than that. I would like to see more of them. I'd like to see them get more opportunities if they can earn them. Yeah, that's about it.
Anyone else G2 lost nuke to EG.
Yeah.
HooXi haters, where you at now?
This is the thing. Just going back to before it all kind of fucked up before, Prof, you were talking about the way that HooXi entries. And it was reminding me, do you remember when Crystal was nearing the end of his career?
Yeah, exactly.
When he was on Godsend or whatever it was before
jumping
they
around
became
corners.
Yeah, and he was just literally sacrificing himself to the other team to be traded. It was like, I will jump out with a MAC-10 looking everywhere as opposed to going for the kill. And like the thing is, I can understand that because the in-game leader, you're getting to the point you're like, man, I'm so fucking useless. At least I can be traded. But if you ever lose that much confidence in yourself in the server, the team can't function. Like the team needs you to, when you have a gimme, you have to get the gimme. Like you're not expected to get the multi-kill spray down or the crazy tap or the fucking gnarly. Like you just sometimes need to be disruptive. You need to get a bit of space. You need to get a kill and make some magic happen. Or if you have it on the CT side and one's coming your way, you need to get that gimme. Like no one's asking you to be the star player, but there are certain kills that you have to get, like that you just have to get. And that I think like HooXi has his moments. That's the thing. I don't know why he would be down on his individual performance. Sometimes he has these really good, like little, okay, I just got a nice like 2K or a nice little 3K. Like he can do it. Maybe he needs to be a bit more selfish.
Like the Inferno game today against Navi, he was okay. Like I had like 15 kills or something. And it's to some degree, it's almost sad to hear how much casters hype him up when he has like, you know, a double. But I understand where it comes from because I also get excited. I'm like, yeah, finally, let's say, like, you know, you can do it. He can do it, but he's not doing it. So it just feels like, come on, man. You know, just believe in yourself just a bit more.
But it's also like if you're on this team, like, does it end up being one of those situations where you just feel forced into that, and then that spirals out of control? You know, where
forced into what?
Forced into being in that position all the time, right? Like, and he kind of is to a degree, right? Like, who else is going to jump out first if you're in this team?
Okay, let's ask this question: who should it be?
I mean, that's the point. Like, he's the one who has to be it. And so, like, if you put yourself in that mindset where you feel like you have to do it every time, then I'm not sure if you can do it in a way where you can have confidence. You know, at some point, like you just know you're the guy who will just have to get traded. And if you have all the other things that you have to keep thinking about as an in-game leader, like it's going to be hard to put yourself back in a mindset where, okay, I want to start fragging. How do I do that? Even if I'm in this position, you know, like, I don't know if it's easy for him to do.
There should be multiple ways, right? Like I see three like key options of openings that they can go for. One is they can try and set up their AWP for a pick, right? You can either Monte can go
Which
somewhere
they do
aggressive.
to some degree, better. I would say better than some other teams.
Okay, so you can try and use your AWP to find a pick, but if he's not feeling it and he's not calling things, it makes it harder for the in-game leader to call around your AWPer. You like to give him options, but if your AWPer is not getting a good spawn and going, I want to pick here, it makes it harder for you as an in-game leader to ask him to do these things, especially if he's not feeling confident with it. Like you can, I'm not saying don't, but it's better if your player wants to do it because he's like fucking, he's already pictured coming off the top of Crane, taking that peak down to yellow. Like, you want him to have that himself. If so, yeah, that's one key. Then you've got Nico, who you can just send anywhere on the map with the AK and a little bit of key utility, or you can just cover one thing for him so he can just jiggle all these corners and mechanically just rip people's heads off with one taps. But if he's missing the shots, it's not working. They have an AWP post on his line. He's getting spammed through smokes. We've all seen a Nico nuke game where he's going yard and range just killing him through every smoke. Okay, so that's removed. Then your last thing is the thing we're talking about here, which is HooXi getting set up with utility or taking a risk to make some space to get a trade. Those are the three options. So you're saying that they need someone else who's willing to take those risks, I guess.
So in that case, do you feel like, especially to make those first two options work, do you feel like G2 just need to get better at seesawing and actually making sure that they can take advantage of those situations more consistently? Where it's like one of the lurks, let's say, going for an opening, especially it's obviously most of the time it's going to be Nico out of those two, but
this is where so you get Hunter on some extremities, you get like JKS who'll throw like setup utility, but then he's coming into the pack late sometimes. This is where I see like some of the issues with G2 when I watch. I see like a guy who's throwing the util, then he has to rotate into the pack, then he's probably left some more util to throw, and then he has to go into the site and plant the bomb. Like I think sometimes their ordering of things gets a little bit messed up in like which players could be doing which things at certain times. But I don't know, like for them as a team, when I see HooXi's first option in like a round, it was an ancient game they played. I forget, maybe it was the major. I forget, maybe it was early on in this group stage. I don't fucking remember, but it was just like him trying to take the good spawn in open space, and if that didn't work, they left in a number disadvantage. And it's like, it's like if you have such good players, I would love to allow them to work before he needs to get into the mess. But the other side of that is for in-game leaders, and I can understand this, especially someone like Carrigan. When Carrigan's calling well and feeling the game, this motherfucker is being one of the highest fraggers in the server because he's getting these timings that he believes in. He's pulling around like a fiddle and he's making his plays. He's getting his entries. He's going for his wide swings. And then as an in-game leader, once you're feeling the game, then you feel you can have more impact, not only with the calls, but the frags. And that right there is like what gets you up at night. You're like, not only am I fucking these guys up with my brain, I'm actually keeping up, which is not the expectation. So I can see why if you're HooXi, you want to call some stuff to get the flow going. I don't know. For me, I return to the G2 thing. I just think it's the energy. Like there's like the aura. It's not that it feels bad. It doesn't feel rotten. It doesn't feel like they dislike each other or anything. It just doesn't feel like they have like a team bond or a team like, I don't know. I'm just like they're getting frustrated when they're losing. That we know about them, and I've seen them when they're winning. We've seen them at their best when everything's going well. And this is the same thing with like a lot of these other teams. Like FaZe is the example we always use when we look at like G2. We talk about these two teams almost as like they're the same product. They both have
not from the mindset maybe.
Yeah, and that's the thing. FaZe feel like they never give up. FaZe are the team that their mentality at the moment is they're not winning trophies in recent history, but they're having these good runs and they're having these really intense games where they come back. And that's enough, I think, to show them as a team that, hey, we're competitive. The iron might not be like melting hot, but we can still strike at any moment and maybe pick up a trophy if we're all playing some good CS. Anyway, I ended up on G2 and then FaZe. Cologne?
Yeah, let's go.
Cologne. Prof, Vox Pop, hit us.
Let's
oh yeah, Dimitri said be right back. I hope he's back.
Dimitri's gonna bring up the question, but the question was just for people to bring up their favorite Cologne moments, essentially to kind of build up why Cologne is so cool, because obviously it's been around for a while, and we know we've watched all these tournaments, but there's always new players, new viewers coming in that are like, okay, I understand everyone's saying Cologne is big and it's cool, but like, why is that actually the case? So I think the best way to say that is to like remember some of the big things that happened over the years. And like, I wanted to start with us picking our favorite stuff, and then we can like spin off into
the community stuff after.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's start with.
I I have one.
I was going to say,
have
let's
one.
start with you because it was your task.
Yeah.
So this is perfect.
I had a video. Let's see if Dimitri can bring this up, or is this going to be laggy as well?
Oh, here we
Uh,
go.
This is a tweet that I made in 2019, and it was just like a bunch of Vitality fans. You can't hear the sound, but people probably can in chat and watching. Which is a bunch of Vitality fans in a car just chanting Zaiwu on the streets. And from today's perspective, and like if you watch the Major and saw all of the French fans and whatever, the singing bees or whatever they're called, it doesn't seem that cool. But like back then, this is the first time that I remember like CS actually spilling out on the streets and becoming this is kind of what you would see after a football game, here in Croatia or anywhere else in the world. And at the time, I think this was after the semi when like Zaiwu, Vitality went to the final and they played against Liquid, lost, but Vitality Zaiwu had the MVP, and this was like his big breakout tournament in terms of like a big LAN, right? So for me, this is like a very memorable moment, and it's also kind of what makes Cologne so cool is like the amount of fans, different fans coming, and it just becomes like a big festival of Counter-Strike almost.
Yeah, no, you do get the vibe. Like I last year especially, like I like to walk around, and people might catch me again this year, but around the outside of the venue, or there's like a street.
You did that Instagram stream last year.
Yeah. Like I was just walking around the venue. There's so many people, and it's great. Like there's always so much stuff going on. There's like Messe Deutz, like that area, which is one of the train stations near the Köln Messe, which is the big thing which we had Cologne at many years ago.
Yeah.
There's a street near there with like all coffee shops and stuff. I remember walking down there one morning, grabbing a coffee, and there's just people all with their jerseys on and everything. And it's a really nice city for it. Like Cologne's a nice city. It's a really fun place to be. And some of the nightlife, people are going to head out to the Zulpische Straße and stuff and get yourself a Kolsch and have a good time. So yeah, Cologne's
we can tell you've
one.
lived there for a while.
Yeah, I used to live on Zulpische Straße. I'm probably pronouncing it incorrectly, but that was like the party street. I used to live on that street when I was a younger man. I think I was like 27. It was kind of a good time to be alive. Now I'm almost in the grave. Okay, someone just said Cologne is a total shithole. That's not my experience with Cologne.
That's not true.
That's not my
that is not
experience.
true.
It's not my experience.
I live in Czech Republic.
It's
I
not
know shitholes.
No, but it's like we've been there enough to kind of get a vibe of the city, right? And like there's so many things you can do, and it seems like it's Germany. It's not like Sweden, right, where drinking's not allowed on the street. Like people are literally like hang around by the river and drink beer on the river, and like it seems like the city has a good vibe,
especially because of the timing, because it's like warm and you can just chill outside. Wasn't that
at the moment? It's not so warm. It's raining at the moment.
You're talking about all the cool things to do in Cologne. Was the Cologne the place where you went to like that sky tallest building in the city, Striker?
Oh,
was that the story? I remember the story where like you, Bertrand, some of the HLTV guys like, oh, we're going to go to see the sightseeing thing. You go to this rooftop. It's very cool. And then they went there and Striker went to the rooftop and is like, I'm afraid of heights.
Yeah, this is that,
and then he was just like, but why did you come then? This makes no sense.
No, I mean, I do what I was getting into.
Did you go up the top?
Yeah.
And how was it?
I mean, it was nice. It's not like it has like some massive, Cologne doesn't have a massive skyline. You basically see the dome, and that's about it. Like you just see the whole city. Yeah, sure, but it's not like it's something super mega impressive like skyline wise.
No.
Nice experience still.
The best is when you can sit on the limestone wall not on the Heumark side, so on the other side, and you can see the dome and everything, like the same side that you're on with that building, and that's like the sun setting, everything. It's fucking beautiful. Okay, well, did you do any homework, Striker, or did you leave Prof hanging?
No. I actually had one thought, and that this is not something that's even public. This is actually from kind of behind the scenes from the first Cologne in 2014. Wasn't in the arenas. It was, as you were talking about, in the kind of like
Messe.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, I mean, like a fair trade center type thing, whatever. And this was after the Cloud9 NIP quarterfinal, and I just remember Cloud9 lost that one on Kabul because of a spot that they didn't really realize that it was there, because they barely had any practice on the map, and this was the first time we saw Kabul. Like it was brought into the map like a month before, and the Cloud9 lost in a way where Freiburg just fucking destroyed them in like the last 5 seconds. They couldn't plant the bomb because of a spot that they just overlooked, because there was just like a little cubby, a little cubby on the A site, where like he was hiding. in the last 10 seconds of the round or whatever when they were attacking A, and that's basically why they lost the map and how NIP ended up going all the way to the final and winning it. And the story is kind of how I remember Sean Gares pretty close after the quarterfinal, I would say, just coming back and kind of repeating, just this was our major, man. This was our major. This is such like one shit spot cost us a major, you know, because this was also at a time where the scene wasn't necessarily super set, like who was the best. NIP weren't even supposed to win this major, you know. So like, yeah, if they beat NIP in that quarterfinal, who knows? Like they could have definitely gone on and done some great things with that major, you know. So that's just a story that I remember from kind of behind the scenes of the first Cologne.
But you didn't bring a show and tell item.
No, I mean, this is something that was behind the scenes I couldn't tell.
Well, we will deduct you 10 points. Dimitri, now I'm going to send you something. I don't know if you could show it. You probably can't. You're probably going to go, I can't show that. And I'm going to go, yeah, that's fine. And then I'll get you another link. And then we'll see what we can get there. But that's a good point you bring up there, Striker, about like the early days. I was just having a look now. Originally, it was ESL 1 Cologne in 2014. I think it was EMS 1 Katowice. Was the one before that. But that had you know, I'm looking at here like who the people were working. It had Red Eye, Scoots, Richard, Semler, Anders, Pansy, Tosspot. And then you had like guest analysts and commentators. One of my teammates at the time was their Top Gun, Heaton, MBK, Steel, Fetish, Sean Gares, who ended up winning that one. That was the NIP one, right? Then we had 2015. That was the year after. Are we out? Can we show this to me? Oh, wait, he's trying. I should have waited. I should have read before I spoke. And now we're stuck treading water again. Hey, what did we got here? 2015. Yanko listed as an observer. That's the thing. Yanko was observing back in 2015. Who else? Oh, Sean Charles. Cadian was an analyst. Moses, Henry G, Fifi, commentators, Pansy D-Man, Joe Miller, Semler, Machine, Anders, Listen Kaplan. What is this?
Is this the video?
Okay, here. Yeah, so if you could fast forward, Dimitri, go to about 2 minutes. No, let's go 3 minutes. 3 minutes and 8 here. We'll start off with the first gun round here of the game. So we're probably just going to watch the whole thing, guys. Just a quick little 16-9. Existence, Maniac, Smith, Shocks, and RPK. You know, just getting donezoed. So coming down connector, you know, just as it was back in the day.
For people like don't have video, what are we looking at right now?
Right now, we're looking at one of the greatest Counter-Strike matches ever played. Renegades taking on Titan at ESL 1 Cologne in 2015. Okay, so he's dropped down connector. He's nated top mid. He's coming back up. Oh, looks like they're setting up for an execute. If we take a look at the radar here, SPUNJ, connector player, in-game leader, wouldn't be in the meta today. Swings off towards
What are you
Palace.
talking about? There's like Alexi who does that. There's like Nafany who does that.
He goes to double go. That's the
That's a double
shot for
right there.
Renegades.
Goes out.
Look at that.
Absolute destruction.
Look at that.
No one could see that coming.
Crazy. Counter-Strike. Once upon a time. What a game.
So you're a connector player?
I was, yeah. I was. But
Interesting.
That's when we used to make like Justin Anchor fucking B and stuff. You know, it was kind of silly. No Molo bench, guys. It's 2015. Come on, man. Come on, man. The game has evolved significantly over the years, yes, but once upon a time, it was definitely much more rudimentary than it is today. Don't you worry about that. JK has hard carry. What are you talking about? I top fragged that match, man. Come on, do your research. All right, let's.
Can't believe people are dissing your game right now. It's crazy,
right? There's no respect anymore.
Propaganda stopped. Like the propaganda machine can never stop, Chad. You need to bring it back.
There's no respect anymore, you know?
You're not talking about it enough.
No respect on the name. All right, what do the people at home have to say, Dimitri? Someone's going to have to read these out for me because it's too far away from... Actually, maybe
I can read them out. That's all good.
Okay, Striker, it's your job.
Okay, yeah, here we go, Striker. What do we got? Number 1.
All right, this is go from a guy called CSGO Things, okay?
Hello, CSGO
or a
Things.
girl, who knows? Was in the crowd in 2018 when Big made the major finale. The atmosphere during big games was insane. The Smuya chant made history.
Yeah. Not a major, but like grand final, obviously. That was also crazy. Crazy story.
Yeah, that should never have happened. Legia running out on like the front of the stage after they're winning rounds and shit. Remember that? Like they wouldn't win the game. They won a round and he's run out there on the front of the stage. Like, bro, you can see the screen and get back behind there. Now he's coaching Valorant, I think. But yeah, that was a fun time. Big. That'd be a memory, especially for the Germans, one that they won't forget.
Banger.
All right, what's the next one? Hit us, Dimitri.
All right, Baller the King. Okay,
Baller the King.
That's a good name. NIP stealing ESL 1 Cologne 2014 in the worst form I've ever seen from a World Championship caliber team. So yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was talking about. with,
Everyone's shitting on old CS. It's like
everybody's
being
shitting on an
bodied.
IP as well.
I'm getting bodied. Everyone's getting wrecked, man.
I mean,
It's
they
up
were
there.
like at that point. At that point, I mean, Fifth Ladder was kind of like halfway out of the door and stuff like that. Like nobody really expected an IP to win a major, and suddenly they get it. You know, after the previous failures.
Yeah, their name value is up there, especially because they made like 4 finals before that. But yeah, they weren't in a great form right there. I don't know where they would be ranked, but we can probably look. I don't know if we didn't have the ranking back then. I don't think we can check it.
No, I
Okay,
don't think
So
you
I
did.
think we had like a Lurpus did a preview. Maybe I can find that. But
I remember
Yeah.
Duncan used to do rankings back then as well. Like he'd do like
I'd say like
articles.
bottomish top 10. So I don't think it's the biggest major upset ever, but it's considering how competitive the scene was at the time. Like it was kind of crazy, and it was a lot of cobblestone.
But that one that they won, right? That's when it was in the Mesa, like was touched on. So it was like this is when the whole thing was there's a black curtain because it was in the expo area, and
It was the IEM like Gamescom. That was like Gamescom. Part of Gamescom.
Yeah, for 2014. So you couldn't. Yeah, the kids under 16 in Germany can't see the blood. So I had to have this big black
it was
curtain.
like overpacked, and I remember there's a picture of like the Navi guys like laying down on the floor in the front row watching the game because they couldn't fit in otherwise.
I was very hungover watching that grand final, and even the group stage thing was stupid as. So like imagine the behind me. So I'm at a PC right now. I have a row of PCs with my team. There's like an aisle, and then there's the same thing again. Then imagine that, right? So the amount of gap, if I push my chair, if I was sitting all the way in towards the table as if I was playing and I push my chair back, I could probably only move enough to get out, right? That's how close it was. And then behind me was another set of people who were doing the same thing and had the same amount of room. So everybody had this tiny amount of room. You had to shuffle past each other and shit because we were just put on some sideshow in fucking Gamescom. And then on the other side was where they built this stage. And I remember... Yeah, I remember vividly. I remember playing that one. That's when we had fucking Kev the Kangaroo. We were out there in Bonn, right? We were out there. We were boot camping on laptops in a hotel conference room. And I don't mean laptops plugged into a monitor. I mean laptops on Wi-Fi in Germany when it rained where you'd lag. Guys, it's not like it used to be. Things are fucking great now.
Bench? What are you talking about?
Things are so good now. No wonder we didn't have a fucking Molotov bench. We didn't even have any time to play the game. We didn't get boot camps. We didn't get prac PCs. Fuck, man.
That's great.
Take me back in
No
time.
Nart out here. You'd have like a Playcasters round breakdown if you're lucky. Maybe like a Dren video, and that's it.
Yeah, I don't want to. It's gonna. Okay. Is that it? What are we got? Anyone else saying any things?
There are a few more.
All right, what
there's
we got?
Hig speed, not high speed. Hig speed 1-2. Simple 1v2 dropping up versus Fnatic ESL 1 Cologne 2016.
Iconic.
Yeah.
You know what the
moment.
greatest thing about that James Bardoff line as well? I said, but you can't do that. It's not FPL. This is a major. For a period of time, they like that couldn't be used because like FACEIT and ESL were like competitors, like with the ESCA, and now they're the same company under ESG, so you can put the line back in. It's fucking perfect.
Let's go.
It's like Bardoff knew. He knew that it was always gonna come full circle, and it was all gonna be good.
And his line being immortalized, that was just gonna cost, what was it? $500 million for FACEIT and $1 billion for ESL.
For ESL, yeah.
It all worked out.
Like just the $1.5 billion.
Chump change, right? Just under the couch cushion. All right, is this one more here?
MRKS_ML I don't know. Whatever.
Nailed it.
Stewie, yeah, exactly. Stewie 2K jumping onto the table. 2019 Liquids Grand Slam run.
That was cool.
Yeah. Good celebration.
Yeah. I like that pop off. Didn't Jordan Nothing Gilbert do the same pop off?
I was gonna say, didn't?
Yeah.
That? I was gonna say about FNX in Cologne 2016. Was that?
Yeah, it took off the
Columbus
shirt, right?
or Cologne? Because I don't remember which major this was, where he was also kind of like rising from the
wasn't
ashes.
It Cologne where he took off the shirt?
I think it was Cologne. I don't want to. Yeah.
I think so.
It was one of the
Nothing
majors
also
for
had
sure.
a moment. Nothing had a moment in the year before when they lost in Navi, I think. 2018. Was that it? I don't know. I think Cloud9 had a good run one year, 2017 or 2018.
Yeah, and yeah.
I think it might have been 17.
Probably seems more likely with 17. But the years have gone by so quick. It's fucking crazy. It's actually insane how quick everything's gone by.
Yeah, they were in the final of 2017.
Bro, the first Katowice for Counter-Strike was 2014, right?
Yep.
Next year's a decade of Katowice.
Yeah.
Holy fucking shit.
And there was even well, no, never mind.
Holy shit. That's
Yeah.
insane. That's insane. Man, the
Fun time.
Zoomers. Well, there's a
Anything
lot of
else?
history. A lot of yeah. Is there any more, Dimitri? We good? Good. Oh
Okay.
no, I tell him.
Rusiak 4. 22 final Navi versus FaZe. I mean, yeah, from recent
Yeah.
times, that is an amazing final.
Banger.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of banger.
One of the
banger
finals of all time.
matches. One of the finals of all time for sure. You know, in the article today, I wrote Cologne, one of the tournaments of the year.
Yeah.
Instead of one of the biggest tournaments, it slipped. The joke slipped into writing. So
Definitely is one of the
so-
tournaments of the year, though.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure, one of
Yeah.
the tournaments.
No, last year's final was great. Last year's final was really good. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
we've spoken about this before, maybe even on an episode this year.
I mean, jokes
actually.
aside, it is literally one of the best finals of all time. Like,
Yeah, for me, getting to cast it, I feel very fortunate getting that that honor right there. It's probably my favorite game that I've ever got to like witness live, I would say, just because it was fucking amazing. It was great, had everything, awesome. I really enjoyed that one. If we get anything that's even close to that again, right? This is the thing, especially when we have like Flux Counter-Strike at the moment. If we have heavy hitters and we have mid-round CS, then we have clutches, and then we have banger games. That's it.
man, like, fuck. I have a little bit of bitterness connected to this final because I literally couldn't watch it because I got COVID. So I like spent the week leading up to the final in the hotel room, and I watched this on my laptop from my bed, and I could have been there. You know, just
Bad, man.
that's the sad part.
Bad, man. Are you going this time?
No, I mean just for the show, obviously, but not for the whole thing.
Okay,
You're not going to hang around for the playoffs?
No, yeah, I will.
Oh, then you'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. All right, let's jump into, I guess, talking about the event. I got to get up early tomorrow. I got to fly, so we're getting close to that 2-hour mark. Let's talk through what our expectations are. We have already, I guess, touched on why it was important and stuff, didn't we? Or do you want to go down history lane? We can talk about all the previous winners, Prof.
No, I think we did.
All right, we gave it
did
enough
justice.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So let's get everybody up to speed. Maybe you're not familiar with the format of the event. This has been run for the big boy ESL events, the Katowices and the Colognes, for some time now. We have a play-in stage which has 16 teams. Those 16 teams are going to compete. Opening games are going to be best of ones. The follow-up games are going to be best of threes. Of that, 8 teams will make their way through to the group stage. Don't call it the main event. The teams who are in the play-in are MOUZ, TheMongolz, Into the Breach, NIP, fnatic, Complexity, OG, 9, Apeks, Big, Astralis, Liquid, Monte, Imperial, Greyhound, and FURIA. And the way I read them just then is the matchups that they will be going toe-to-toe in. That's the 26th of July to the 28th of July. And then we have, obviously, the group stage. The group stage, the teams who are already waiting in the wings: Heroic, Vitality, FaZe, G2, ENT, Gamer Legion, Cloud9, and Na'Vi. And they're already broken up into 2 respective groups. Group A has Heroic, Cloud9, ENT, and Gamer Legion. And Group B has Vitality, Na'Vi, G2, and FaZe.
I mean, with Cloud9, I know people were talking about like, oh, Group B, how fucking huge. But with Cloud9 making that change in time for Cologne, I'm not so sure anymore. And especially seeing, you know, G2 not in the best shape and things like that, I'm not entirely sure that it's obvious which group is like so much stronger.
Especially because some other teams will be joining.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know
so-
which teams would be joining which side, so we'll see about that as well.
That's the thing, right? So we're going to have to wait and see how the main groups stack up. But the early reflection, we have got to see all of FaZe, G2, Na'Vi, and Vitality, and they're all strong names. And I just want to remind everybody, of those 4 names, which still need to be joined by another 4, only 3 of those names can make it through to the playoff, right? Because six teams in the playoff, we got 2 quarterfinals. I know, counterintuitive. 2 semifinals and a grand final, the best of 5. It is only the top dog events here for ESL that have the best of 5s now. They removed it from the Dallases or the Sydneys or the Rios, for example. So the best of 3s, best of 5 here. So it's just kind of crazy, just knowing immediately once we get to the main group stage, only 3 of the names. So at the moment, I guess you'd say Vitality, Na'Vi, and FaZe, but like you don't know who else is going to be in that pool of teams. G2
but it's
can
also
still play
kind of
good
like
CS.
G2 go up against FaZe one day and they win, you know. So
Exactly.
like it's kind of like one of those matchups that just can't go either way.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the crazy things. So that's going to be a fun group to get to when we get there. Okay, so I think what we should do is go through each of these play-in matches, if we could, and talk about our expectations for the game, and kind of go down with some notes on those teams, because some of the teams we haven't seen play yet, and that's probably the fairest way to handle this. What do you guys think?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so this first one's pretty easy. MOUZ, we've already seen them play. They played in some online stuff. Didn't go fantastically well for them. It went okay. They've got Yimfat. I'm going to have to make sure that I get his name correct. Yimpat. Yeah, I swear someone the other day, there was a bit more footy. Yimpat.
I know some people say that, but I saw a video with him. Yimpat would be the one, but he doesn't really give a shit. It seems like he said Yimpat.
Where do we see them play? What are you talking about?
I don't.
They played in a G8 qualifier. I watched them. They didn't end up on HLTV.
Was this off HLTV? Okay.
Yeah, I was grabbing the ESCA Go TV links.
All right. Any particular thoughts from that?
He was fine.
Where
was AVG.
Where were they playing? I mean, I assume they were kind of Impact and Frozen were kind of the extremities or whatever.
I think I was watching him play Overpass.
Okay.
I think I was watching him play Overpass. I'm just trying to remember. They played 2 games back to back, and I was watching. I just remember that he wasn't one of the players who was struggling. I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
And I was online, and he wasn't having any issues. He was doing what he needed to do.
That's like as good of a early sign as
that's what I thought. I was just like, as long as he's not only getting 4 kills a half, and he was doing fine. He was
it's also like online, like the early stage of the online qualifier, so like I don't know who they were playing up against, but I assume it wasn't like some amazing big name.
All right, Sergey's brother. That's what we'll call him. I think they should really have no issues with the Mongols. Mongols is not what we knew they once were.
Man, I really hope they will not just be completely useless now, but I just don't see how they won't be.
They have like completely fucked themselves up here, haven't they?
I don't expect
really completely reset. They're back to being, nothing team.
Just a random Asian team, yeah.
And no respect either. Like I remember before, people were kind of a bit blown away. Like when they came out, oh wow, they're defaulting it a lot, and they're just playing like more standard CS. And everyone's like, wow. We already kind of knew that from before when we had seen them playing some smaller stuff. But I don't expect them to be as competent at that again this time. Like when they changed their AWPA, right? They changed their AWPA from 9 to Annihilation or something like that, I think, right? It's like, okay, they changed the AWPA, whatever. It's a bit more of a flux piece anyway. It's the other blokes you want to have the fundamentals down. Now, if it's changed and it's this whole new roster, and it's like, there's a guy here called 910. Hasteka, when he joined, they were like, yeah, we played with him before. We know he can be good. Nothing really impressive. And then some other new guy, Mazzino, like Mzino.
Yeah, I mean, it's
16.
16, man. Another one, 16v16. Sweet 16 match right there.
That's the stupidest shit.
I don't know. Sweet 16 in America. They do like a big celebration for it.
It is funny. It is funny.
Come on, man.
It's so out of left field.
My brain's leaking. It's just they got the heart palpitations, the brain leaking. It's all falling apart.
Yeah, MOUZ.
Yeah. Predicting MOUZ. Bang.
Into the breach. Oh, they made these changes with BMUS, Neofrag,
I'm excited to see Beamer's back in the server. It's been a long time, and he's been fucking retweeting that same thing for a while.
Jesus Christ. How many times have I seen that retweet? I'm so happy.
Persistence pays off. He fucking got a team.
I'm so happy I don't have to see it anymore, at least for some time.
Yeah, but this is the thing. So Into the Breach are one of these teams which we knew blew us all away at the major with their level of performance, but they've lost a couple of their key pieces, Cypher and Volt. Cypher is still in the breeze right now, but Volt made his way onto Gamer Legion, who are in the top 8 already. So maybe you got the better end of this deal here, but it's kind of left Thomas as the only UK representation. It is going to be difficult seeing them go up against NIP because the expectation was low of them before, and then they played well. Now we reset that expectation again a little bit, but I feel like, Neofrag's experienced, BMAS had potential, so maybe it's not, the worst thing in the world.
Decent punts, I feel like, in terms of like who they could get. I don't
wonder
mind
if they'll still like Vertigo, right? Maybe they'll still go for some Vertigo plays here, and Neofrag could try and be.
It just hurts because Cypher was a huge part of their success. So I don't really see BMAS or Neofrag doing something like that again. But maybe I'm wrong. I think they can be like a top 30 team, but in terms of like Cologne, I don't expect anything.
Right. Are we going to respect the underdog striker, or what?
Early signs aren't. I was looking at their results. They lost to a team called MB, which has like 2 names that I can recognize, which is Alex666, who we used to be in B8, and Fostar, who I don't remember where I know him from, but I know him from somewhere. And then they lost to Aklot, which is basically a Czech team, who's playing with Anarkez. So not like super particularly competitive on the like tier 2.
Maybe this is what
But
they
They're
want.
so far-
lanners. You know they're lanners.
I mean, yeah, didn't we? Wait, was it them or
There
was
was
it somebody else?
Cypher.
Who
It was Cypher who was like, you know, he
Yeah,
plays so
extremely
much better on
LAN.
LAN.
Right.
extremely LAN player.
But this is the thing, like their expectation from us, I imagine, gets reset back down to almost 0, which for them is probably perfect. So, you know, they're probably like, yeah, great, underestimate us again, and you know, we'll have Crucial pop off
mean,
again,
0,
and Valen
yeah.
doing his job, and
That's the deal. 0 expectations with this team at the moment.
They also
just
don't have
because...
they don't have the UK CS buff anymore, so they can't do it. Sorry.
That's true. That's true.
They're playing against NIP. I guess we're all leaning towards NIP.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's fine. Like, you know,
that's the best. I mean, it is a BO1, so like at that point,
let's look like fools again. Let's be wrong again. Let's have another major situation. where all
No
these
chance
underdogs win.
in hell for Thomas.
Cut
No
this
hell.
clip of Prof right now.
I
No
think
chance
going
in hell,
down.
it says.
out of all the things that we probably, well, I mean, we're going to get into some matchups that we're probably going to say are kind of toss ups, so I'm maybe not, but it is
60-40.
one of those. It is one of those upsets that
75.
could happen.
What percentage you put on it? That could be a nice.
I mean,
talk about percentage of predictions
60-40 is
recently.
pretty good. I think
60-40
60-40 is not bad. I
See,
mean,
that's
it's
kind of nice.
not too bad.
You got a 40% chance, Thomas. There you go. Get the frag engine started. All right, NIP versus MOUZ would be a follow-up round. That feels like a matchup that happens all the time. fnatic complexity. Oh,
It's hard.
If it wasn't for
for
fnatic play, right?
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for complexity not being particularly competitive with the new lineup at this point, I don't know. I mean, they were up and down. They got kind of destroyed by Astralis, which really didn't instill me with a lot of confidence. They were okay against NIP, but then I think Vitali also just wiped the floor with them, right? They had got like 7 rounds into 2 maps or something. Not sure what to think at the moment. I mean, it was supposed to be like a big upgrade. Obviously, first game or like first tournament and all that stuff. Maybe they were just like slow to start. But still, I'm not 100% sold. So maybe I would give fnatic a chance, even though after changes, you know. Because if it was before like Blast, and then we were talking about this matchup, I would say complexity.
I don't even know what maps fnatic are going to play. Like, do they start completely again? I guess you've still got the core, but then Dexter has to lead, and Afro's a brand new AWPer. Mezzi to star rolls. Mezzi's your star now.
They can't play overpass. Complexity likes overpass.
It's a best of 1. Yeah, okay. Yeah, overpass.
Dexter didn't like overpass, if I remember correctly.
I think he liked it in like Renegades days.
Yeah,
but I
but
don't
not
know
in
how it was
MOUZ.
on the MOUZ days.
Yeah.
And I think he was one of their A players. Like he was
On
like,
Renegades, I remember him being like bathrooms fragging, like,
yeah.
you know, classic.
So yeah, if this ends up on like a, I don't know. This one is like we're taking a punt here. And
For me, yeah, I feel like I'm feeling complexity still just because I have no fucking idea what fnatic is going to look like. They replaced the Opera and IGL. That's
so fnatic's win condition is Roy fragging like he did in Copenhagen Flames. Afro being a legit prospect on the AWP here because his name's been tossed around a bit in the last couple, I would say year and a half, right, to do with French Counter-Strike. And Mezzi returning to star roles needs to actually have that impact because he still had impact as an in-game leader, Mezzi, but now he has a lot more output going to be required of him here. That's the win conditions for this team, right? So here we've only seen complexity play. So it would be much easier and safer for us to say we're more confident in complexity because it's been a known quantity. And we can see when Elige is playing well, and he has been playing well, which is a great thing. Probably should have touched on this. Elige has been looking like he can be star Elige again. That's a good sign. But this complexity team feels like they're going to have an air of tilt to them. They got a couple of guys who get a little bit ragey, a little bit upsetty spaghetti. You know, you see a bit of it. You see the frustrations. So I think that's probably going to be one of their bigger issues. Whereas fnatic, I look at them, they don't look like a team who are going to tilt externally. Maybe they'll tilt internally, but they look like some well-mannered gentlemen. Mezzi's very polite. Dexter's very polite. These are nice. No, they are. They're nice guys.
Great table manners.
They are. They're nice guys. So I think they'll know how to get along with other humans. And just to be different, and not because I have anything against complexity, just because we're throwing predictions out into the world, I'm going to go with fnatic. I'll back Dexter.
Okay.
I get like, I get a freebie with that one. I get again. And this game here, Striker, Mr. Percentage. What would you put on a match like this?
Man, I mean, I would still give like a slight edge to complexity, maybe like 55-45.
But didn't you
Okay.
pick Fnatic, bro?
I mean, I said if this was like before Blast, I would definitely pick Complexity, but because I saw Complexity play at Blast, I'm not so sure anymore. You know, so I'm not. I don't know. I think Complexity still have
You
the
think
stability.
Complexity didn't look good in Blast? I know they got.
They
there
had
was
like the thing is like they had two really bad games and two okay games, you know, and so it's
True.
hard. It's really hard to tell like where's the stability in that. You know,
Sure.
that could just be slow start into the season. You know, it's just a little bit rusty, not really being consistent yet. You know, so that could just be that. Like this Fnatic hasn't even
But
played, right? Not even
exactly.
like you have some online stuff, so it's even going to be like double the case for them, you know. So I can see
Yeah.
how Complexity will be the one favored just through stability alone and having
sure.
some playtime already.
Yeah, I think that is a factor here. But then we go into this black box of the unknowing of what to expect. So this is where and I know that people do get a little bit upset when players say, "Oh, play our own game" and stuff. And I know it just feels like a throwaway comment, but it's sometimes really hard to quantify what a good game of Counter-Strike for a player feels like. Because when you are the team who, they brought this up on the broadcast today, I think it was Swanee in the pregame saying like they weren't, taking enough initiative, or they, weren't being aggressive enough. I know Pimp latched onto it, but regardless, like when you're having a good game of Counter-Strike, everything feels like it's working because you tend to be doing things, right? Like,
Right.
you're going for this flash or you're going for this play, and your expectation of what's coming next, sometimes it all just kind of lines up. And there's obviously reasons for that. It's like the hard work or you hitting that bullshit shot that you probably shouldn't. There are all these things that play into it, but that's kind
And
of
sometimes you just make the right calls, just
in the
not
moment.
really. Yeah, exactly. Not really having like super big reads on them or anything like that. Just like you make the right call a couple of times in a row, and that gets into their head and all that stuff. You know, so it just spirals.
But that's the thing. Like Counter-Strike is this game where we talk about a team in the first half and a guy has only 4 kills, but he's playing the T side as like this role that is very unlikely to get kills. Then he flicks on over and he gets like 14 in the next half. And it's like, well, he's having a good half now. It's like, yeah, well, he's in a better position. He's getting more action. Or you look at a game and there's a guy who's getting iced out. They're never going to his site. He's always having to rotate in. He's never having any impact because he's never getting any favorable fights. Like there's all these things that play into a game of CS that we have a rough time being able to tell over the course of a game because we're following the action. We're not following the inaction, which is why this guy is not getting anything done. Anyway, I've kind of gone down another rabbit hole, but it was a fun one. So yeah, let's move on. Let's jump to our next matchup here. I realize this. I say tour interesting for people and here interesting for people. So I hope that you all don't hate it. OG versus 9.
You're referring to your Aussie accent, or
yeah?
Okay.
Tour. We're gonna go on a crocodile tour. Okay, I'm gonna go here, right? Another one of these situations, we just saw OG, so maybe the recency bias makes people want to lean towards that, versus 9, which is Hades, K, Goofy, Kyla, and Minio. I want to have some faith in 9, but this for me is a flat out 50-50 because I think that 9 still have some growing to do as a team in terms of like these environments and getting. This is a good opening matchup for them, though. I think it's a good test for them. An OG, a bunch of experienced players, and a bit more of a well-known org. I think this is one of the scenarios, again, a best of one. Yeah. The map pool for OG not even really established. So if OG can find themselves on a Mirage or something, like a map where, anybody can pop off, I can see them staying competitive in a game like that. But I think if we're on something a bit more technical, I'd be leaning towards a 9.
I'm picking 9 for this one, honestly. I was not impressed by anything from OG. I mean, I didn't really watch in detail, but I was kind of like, it was on one of the OG big game or something. There are some glimpses, and that's kind of it. Whereas with 9, I kind of know where they are. I just don't have faith in this OG lineup. I just don't see how they're going to be good in any way.
Yeah. I think the 9 probably are a better team overall, but I just like worry.
I mean, just looking at the odds, it's even like the stat maker odd makers are like slightly favoring 9. I don't think it's like a big favorite kind of style, but just like in my opinion, I would rather side with 9 here than an OG that, aside from Regali, doesn't seem to have much going for them.
Okay,
I'd go with that too.
Oh, nice consensus.
Also kind of like 55-45 maybe. So.
Well, this is the thing. A lot of these are quite close. The next one is Apeks versus Big. Now, Apeks obviously lost JL, and they're going up against Big, who we already touched on won't have Mantu. So I would immediately lean towards Apeks. I think that they feel like they probably have a lot to prove after getting a player poached, right? So you come up with that fire in your belly. I think Kixon as well, also being a new in-game leader, for him, the major would just have acted as like the stoking of the fire that already existed, because like he just got to this next level of his career and then immediately went and did something fucking amazing. So for him, I imagine he's just as fired up as ever. So and then you have Kakanito coming in as that replacement for JL. So he's someone who's Kixon's played with before. So we get to see how that team kind of comes together now. And it was the more experienced pieces, like your Jacob and your Stikos, and even your Nork, who was very clutch heavy for them, which is why there was, actually they were all did their jobs, right? That's the thing that was good about them. They had like this, a bit bulldozery in play style sometimes. They'd like to run you down, right? They had some good philosophies. You could see some of the thought process. They didn't like allowing a lot of the T's to set up. They were quite jarring on the CT side, quite pokey and proddy. But then Nork was phenomenal in the clutch. There's no way he can do that again, surely. Like, he was really good in the clutch, wasn't he? In the major, or am I misremembering?
Yeah, no, you're right.
No, I like to replicate. That's really hard. To replicate clutch stats is fucking difficult.
Sure.
Has to be some of the most difficult stats to replicate, right? Because clutches are hard to weigh.
There are very few of them, so sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't, right? But some players are more in them and more likely to win them, like Brokey, obviously, late round, like Shiro, especially in like the prime time of Gambit, like he was fucking insane and so hard to play against Zipex in his prime. But the numbers that Nock put up, I don't know what it was like 20 clutches or something during the major. That's very unlikely to happen again. But it might not happen just because they're not winning through clutches. Like, they can just win normally, so you're not even ever in a position to clutch. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
I also like the go ahead.
No, go.
I mean, I also like the Kakanito replacement. I don't think it's that big of a downgrade to me. I mean, JL, of course, like he's had a bit more behind him in terms of experience. I mean, he's been playing like a little bit of a higher tier of that, kind of like those lower tier tournaments more consistently than the guys from Blue Jays. They had also obviously had a lot of those tournaments as well. But just in general, and I mean, now he has the major experience and all that stuff on top of that. But I don't think it's necessarily such a big downgrade. I mean, this is a guy that Ants were looking into when they were getting Valde.
He subbed for 80k as well, didn't he? I remember.
He subbed for 80k. He subbed for
and he kind of dominated. He played well.
Yeah. He's played for. He was. I don't know if it was a trial or he was just subbing in for Endpoint or whatever. He was doing well there too, for a couple of tournaments. So I mean, this is a guy that's been on the radar for a while. So I think this is definitely a guy who deserved the shots to be in a team that's at least going to be at some of these tournaments.
Yeah, and I think when we look at the three big surprises of the major, it was Apeks, Into the Breach, and Gamer Legion. Obviously, Gamer Legion got scalped the worst with like Shui and IEM. Like, without them, they're not the same team anymore. I don't think they can never do anything similarly with the lineup they have now.
Yes.
So that's kind of GG. Into the Breach lost Cypher and they lost Volt. I think it's kind of a big deal, especially the Cypher side. And then Apeks, I think out of the three, definitely has the biggest chances to kind of continue on a decent trajectory. With like, JL was good, but he wasn't nearly as good as IEM or Cypher were for their teams. Like, he wasn't that big of a. You could say he was the best player, maybe, but that could be up to discussion, because like, Nock, in terms of the clutches, I think was better, and the playoff wasn't really great from JL, right?
Yeah, I think people kind of overrate JL's performance at the major. I mean, if you look back, it's not like statistically he was particularly amazing. And like at any point, he had a couple of standout games, but like overall, it's not like he was amazing. It's more like his record before that he was a guy that could be the next guy on the way up. So I think people just like kind of disregard that at the major he didn't actually have that amazing of a tournament, which I think speaks to more about how solid Apeks is as a team, just because they didn't rely on the EMAT performance, as Gamer Legion did. Like, that was so much of EMA. EMA was like fucking destroying. He had so many like entry multi kills, things like that. He was literally winning them rounds alone, And of course, Nock had a lot of those clutches, but for him to even get in those positions, they had to be pretty good to get into late rounds, where he can step up and stuff and things like that. So I think that's also something that speaks to their quality as a team and how this is unlikely to affect them as much as the other teams, as Prof was talking about.
There is one factor though here that needs to be considered, and that's what people would have been seeing today. And I know that Scrawny Connor, while commentating, definitely brought this up. But having JL on our screens, you can see he's quite a personality. Like when he's dead and his team's running around, you can see him like trying to contain his excitement. Like he's definitely an animated guy, and he has a big energy. And I don't know the inner workings of Apeks, but having an energy like that, if it is quite a positive one, which it's seemed pretty positive, is fun to have. So that's the only area, and an area that I can't measure or speak to, that could be affected, right? I agree with you guys in the sense that like to be able to have this Kakanita guy come in who's, you know, people have been looking at, they've been speaking his name. It's like, okay, yeah, like maybe player for player.
Jail is more replaceable than I am in Cypher. That's it. It's not like he is a bad player, and it's not like anyone would want to remove him from the team. I don't think anyone was happy that he got the Navi. I mean, happy for him, but not happy he's leaving, right?
Sure.
They would rather stick around with him, but definitely it's a player that can be replaced, and that the trajectory can somehow continue. And it kind of makes sense because out of the three orgs, I definitely think Apeks has the most backing in terms of money to buy players, and essentially that kind of helps you keep players in. And overall, I think they definitely beat big here, just to go back on track, and then we'll see what happens next. I think they could make it to the main stage, but it really depends on who they're going to be playing.
That's the thing, right? Because as we narrow down the field, so maybe we can try and accelerate this a little bit more because we're at the 2-hour mark now. Astralis Liquid, the head-to-head recently would have Astralis toppling them, but Liquid also a new roster together here. Were there enough signs, Striker, from what you've seen from Liquid so far to think that they could maybe regroup, regather, and go up against Astralis again here and maybe come out on top of it this time round? Because they lost in 2 maps, 16-11, 16-9. And it was a good win for Astralis. They got to the point where Blame and Borup were having hysterical laughter as they stomped them. Like, I don't know what was so funny, but those two were having an absolute blast. It was great to see, pardon the pun, but they were having a fit. So what do you think, Striker, when you see this rematch only a couple of days after this match has just gone down? 2 days, 18 hours, 26 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those cases where, I mean, obviously for both teams, it's going to be hard to know exactly what the other team is going to come up in the meantime, because there's still like a few days for them to adjust, especially like when they approach this matchup specifically. And I mean, this is 2 new lineups, both of them brought in 2 new players, so like there's could be so much work done behind the scenes in that time, even though like, let's say it's a week, but between those matches, I think that's about it, because it was yesterday, right?
Exactly. So
or maybe playing a different map.
Very true as well, right? If actually, I don't know, both teams were more than happy. Let's just check what that was going to go to in the series there, because it was going to go to Ancient as the third, and we had seen Liquid on Ancient a little bit earlier on in the tournament, I had thought.
And they beat
for Blast.
FaZe on it, I want to say. Yeah, they beat FaZe on it, and oh yeah, that was the super convincing
and they
CT
beat
side,
G2
right?
And they beat G2 on it. So they would be happy to let it get there, but that's the thing, Astralis Veto and Count.
Like this is one of those cases, like literally these are two new lineups, and like they will both probably change things in the meantime, even though it's like, let's say 4 or 5 days, and so that there's going to be some more work done on their map pool. So it's really difficult to tell where that's going to go in the first place.
It's hard to measure, right? But right now, I suppose from the mental edge, Astralis have that. Astralis have the we already beat them.
I don't know if you guys talked about Astralis at all, but I'm just happy they have a roster that makes sense.
Yeah,
we did talk about the roles, I think, last time we were here.
Yeah, and it's I think Blamef spoke about it in the interview. They just picked players that make sense in their roles, and they have quite a few decent, like quite a few. They have a few like star players. They have a few role players. It just seems to kind of work. I just expect from them more consistency. And that whole interview, like Blamef was being Blamef, he was kind of cheeky there. It's like, before the idea was to, stick with what we have and develop and progress, but there wasn't a lot of progress that we were making. And realistically, the last 2 years for Astralis have been pretty abysmal. They had that Cologne run that propelled them into like top 5 in the world for the rankings, because there was a big break after it. But realistically, they're not a top 10 team in the last 2 years. And that is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy. I think this team is going to be that, and even if it's not with this exact lineup, I think the core makes sense more, and like they can always replace. If Buzz can't adapt, or if maybe Stair can't really fit, maybe they can find another. Maybe we can bring back Config or something. But there is options for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in these little bit less aggressive roles, I think Buzz is. I mean, he's gotten into some form compared to what he was before, because he had some really rough. I think it was Dallas and spring final that he had really rough, and we were kind of like looking at why Altex might have been the better person to replace with one of Stair or Borup, whoever. But in the groups, he actually had a pretty stable performance. He just wasn't put into those situations where he's constantly in those like high risk positions where he will be like either winning the opening duel or not a lot of the time. And so I think that's definitely helped him get a little bit more confidence, it seems, and get some decent numbers. So I think once Stair comes into this lineup, I think Borup is always going to be that guy who's just not going to be good statistically just through the positions he plays. Like he plays everything that the team needs him to. Basically, he doesn't play any good positions, and it's more going to be Stair who's going to be better set up. And he was a bit up and down. So once he comes into this lineup a little bit more, I think that you have two obviously very reliable stars in Device and Blame F. And then if you have Buzz delivering this kind of just like whatever, a 100 to 105, performances, and then Stair is like that third star, then this is actually a pretty decent lineup, if you look at it just from a statistical point of view as well. So
Some
I
of the
think
stuff was very
good.
late. Did you notice? Like they were playing very slow. There was some really late stuff from Astralis.
Yeah,
like,
true.
And there's also some stuff that was quite like just wandering around corners, a bit individual. But they were also then at Overpass. Think about some of that. They had some really good flashes. Like they had some really good punishes and stuff too. So I think obviously they're still early in their development as a team as well. So I guess everybody speaking the same language is going to help them kind of get things together quicker, or at least I'd have that expectation. But yeah, I think it's some of the more positive signs for Astralis in a long time, which is probably, I guess, one of the more positive things we've been able to say about Astralis in a long time, right? So, yeah.
So we're edging towards Astralis there, or Liquid?
I think just because of how recent it is, you would go Astralis, but I think that any man under the sun would be more than happy to say that this could go either way still.
This is very 50-50. Yeah, it's hard to say. Just one map, like even with the historical matchup, could be either way anyway.
Now, this next one here, Monte versus Imperial. We have Imperial adding Henny and obviously Phelps. I think for Henny and Phelps, this is their last cracks really at this level of Brazilian CS to show that they got the goods.
I love that. I was watching the Blast thing, like broadcast one of the days, and for the opening, they had some like recapping of the changes in Brazil. And they're talking about it. They had like a graphic, and they're talking about it.
I saw this.
Talking about one team and another team, and then they went back to talk about Henny, and and Pim completely fucked up which team he was on.
Yeah.
And I thought he was saying the correct thing because this guy was on every fucking team in Brazil. And then I was like, someone says like, no, he's not on MIBR anymore. I was like, wait, isn't he on MIBR? No, he was on MIBR. So now he's on Imperial. Like in my brain, I can't even imagine him now in this jersey. It's going to be so confusing. Like all of these Brazilian changes, I know, like I saw everything, but in my brain, I can't. Ask me any team, and I'm gonna freeze completely.
Well, we also have to have Vinny in game leading, right? So that's going to be fun as well. Yeah, Vinny's in game leading.
Yeah,
Phelps comes in as one of these aggressive riflers to kind of fill the position of Cello. So you got Phelps and Jota, you got Vinny in game leading, and then you have Henny again, who was, I remind everybody, during the online era, part of FURIA when they were fucking god tier.
And we were kind of confused about why they got rid of Henny, right? Or why he left, rather.
I think it was for his brother, right? But we all could see that ended up not being a
decision ever.
But best segue ever, because bro is on Monte for Boro.
Bro?
Yeah, there it is. So this one here, like I was quite impressed with some of the pieces of Monte when I got to watch them, right? Like I like Krasnov, even though his stats, they're not fantastic, but in positions, I was like, yeah, I like him. He's handy. He does the job he needs to do. He understands. He's got good awareness. I guess this team now is asking for an aggressive rifler who can just bop heads, because that's what Boros was. They just put him in an area and hit it with headshot.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like statistically, bro hasn't been that He hasn't
No.
been at Boros anywhere near, so it's going to be interesting if they move things around just to accommodate him, or if they put him in a different position. I'm not entirely sure. They played one match, but I didn't see it.
Which means if he's not as good as Boros, they need more output from other players on the team. Warriors, their AWPer, right? So more output from him. I don't think you can get more output from SDY, but he does have good games. Like, I'm not saying SDY is a bad player.
I mean, he was one of their stars, to be honest, for a while.
Yeah, who's going to in-game lead, though? Because didn't SDY do it at the major so Warrior could focus more on AWPing? Are they going to go back to Warrior doing it? And I guess that's a good
presumably
question.
they're sticking to SDY. Just
Yeah, but
makes sense.
then we should have no expectation.
Good thing to check.
Yeah.
Are you going to check that at the lobby?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll do the lobby content. I don't know what I need to be doing.
I mean, the whole like haircut conspiracy continues now. SDY is like short hair, same as Simple. You know, it's just.
Oh dear. Okay, maybe they just have the same barber.
Or enemies.
Or frenemies.
Frenemies.
Okay. Who's going to win this, Monte or Imperial? I kind of want Imperial to win. All right, Strike, you get the final say.
Oh, so much pressure. I'll say Imperial.
Hey! And then Greyhound versus Furia. Furia win, obviously.
Yeah,
Fallen, Queserado, Cello, Yuri, and Art. They've been here boot camping in Malta. Haven't seen them. I know you guys were going to ask. And also boot camping in Warsaw at the Kingwin facility, I think. Okay. Is Greyhound, Vexi, Inns, Leaz, Sicko, and Alistair. So I guess we're going to go with Furia on that one there.
Yeah, are we just doing the finals here, and who's gonna qualify in the best of threes?
Yeah, I think because this is it, because the rest of the field it will narrow down to, and we can pick the best of the litter, if that makes sense. So it'll be MOUZ versus NIP. I think that game right there is a hard one to call.
Yeah, maybe 50-50.
But I would hope both of those make it to the main event.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it. Who did we say? Did we say fnatic or complexity? Fnatic, didn't we?
Complexity.
Complexity.
Yeah.
Complexity 9. Ooh.
Damn.
Ooh. Best of 3. 9 will have a deeper, more tested map pool. I have to go with 9.
Yeah. I'd give it the call, to be honest. But
really?
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. It doesn't really matter, does it? Because we just kind of see which teams go through. So let's give it to Cole here. Let's say 9 lose that game. Okay, so what else we got? It'll be Apeks versus Astralis. Astralis probably. I don't know. I don't want to sleep on all the underdogs again.
Man, this is like fucking Cologne is so hard. There's so many new teams. Like, it's so impossible to call.
But it was like, fuck. I don't want to
sleep.
We've
seen Blast
I'm not
teams,
sleeping
but only
on
playing
Apeks
against Blast teams. Yeah, I mean, I understand you, but I think Astralis are pretty solid already.
They got Device as well. How can you go against Device?
It's probably going to be Liquid anyway. So like,
but we need 8 teams. We need 8 teams. Let's do this instead of saying like who's going to win the matchups, right? Let's get 8 teams. So
we're going to pick 8 teams that physically can't qualify, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter though. MOUZ, NIP. Those two. Would we be happy with those two?
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
Okay, I think Furia.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Liquid. We have to say no.
Astralis and Liquid. Then we're up to 5.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. We need 3
more.
more.
Apeks. I like Apeks out of the kind of like the lower.
Okay.
For
so
sure.
Apeks 6. Look at it. We're counting together here.
But it can't be Liquid, Astralis, and Apeks, I think.
Oh shit, he's right.
No, it can. It can.
Oh, it can.
If Apeks win and then beat one of the draws on Liquid, they're going to play somebody else in the lower. So yeah, they can.
Okay. So we've got 6. We need 2 more. So out of the rest of the field, let me read it out. MONGOLZ, no. Into the Breach?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't say no.
fnatic?
Who the fuck knows,
we can come back to him. We can come back to Complexity?
Yeah.
Also, yeah, I would say I would edge towards yes.
Complexity would get us to 7. And we would just need 1 more team out of Greyhound, Imperial, Monte, Big, 9, OG, fnatic, Into the Breach, MONGOLZ.
They were like 9 for that one.
For me, it's between 9, fnatic,
and OG maybe.
I would even say like maybe.
You can't say big, surely.
Yeah, I would go for 9.
I like
fnatic,
9 the most, just for the stability argument.
Okay, so yeah, that's the thing though. So that would mean like if we went with something that we had just said there, our top 16 teams, and you guys can help me along here because I'm going to forget some of these here. Our top 16 teams would be Heroic, Vitality, FaZe, G2, ENCE, Gamer, Legion, Cloud9, Na'Vi. And then we're going to have MOUZ, NIP, Astralis, Apeks, Liquid, Complexity
9.
9, and one more that I missed. FURIA.
FURIA. There you go. Yeah.
That's a pretty gnarly list. The
I
only
like that.
team that doesn't fit right now in the current top 8 is Gamer Legion.
For sure.
And that's no fault of their
I
own.
don't
Their players
think-
got poached. Nealon to replace Shui and Volt to replace. Volt's now got a Romanian flag.
Yeah. He has both British and Romanian citizenship, apparently.
Okay. So it's like me with the UK. Fair enough.
Yep.
Okay. Well, they have Volt replacing. What am I forgetting?
Yeah.
Ime.
Let's did we spend, you talked about Cloud9 before, right? But
We've talked
I
about
just-
Cloud9 a lot.
I
We
just want to
overhyped the fuck
say-
out of them.
I just want to say I have no expectations of them for this event.
If they
I
don't
think-
win, they should change roster and they should all
If
quit.
they go out 0-2, it's fine. Like, I have zero expectations for that. I think we should not take this result seriously.
If this
And
team
that's
is not beating Na'Vi in 2-0 fashion, it's a
But-
failure and a terrible decision from Electronic. And I
But
don't mean
they
that.
should
That's
win a tournament
satirical.
in 3 months. They should win a tournament in 3 months.
Okay, you've given them a 3-month window.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
think
in
just
that
Like,
time,
like a
man, they
Hussar
have so
Cup or a
much.
Sydney or something like that, they should win.
Bro,
Okay.
they have so much fucking talent. They have to be decent at least here. It's not like they can go 0-2 and we're going to be like, yeah, okay, first tournament. No way we can have that for Cloud9. I mean,
I'd be
that's
very
going way
upset
too
if they
far in that
bottomed out.
direction. I think it's not necessarily unrealistic for them to be in a position where they can win literally the first tournament and it's Cologne that they go to. I think it's realistic. I think it's not like that we should just straight out expect them, just because, as we said, like, I think Heroic and Vitality are the only 2 teams that we kind of expect to be stable at this point. But I think there's just so much fucking talent. There's no way they will play some fucking play-in team, lose to them, and then lose to whoever loses between
What
ends.
What if they fucking play Astralis or something?
Do you think they will? Do you think they will lose to Astralis in a best of 3?
I think they could.
I don't know, man.
And you
Their
think they
first
will
fucking
lose to
official.
another? And you
It's their
think
first
to-
official, man.
I'm
It's their-
overhyping him. Overhype him. Get on the train. Get hyped
I think
about
it's-
this.
bro, I think it's
Perfecto and
just-
Electronic, major champions, joining Uncle fucking Hobnob, as well as his bunch of merry men, Axar, Beast Rifler, Bops the Domes, and Shiro, this little fucking guy. He's just so good with the orb. Like, you look at him and he's just a little guy and he's fucking bopping everybody. How are they not going to be sick?
I think they just
They
have to
better
be
be sick.
competitive in Cologne. I think they have to be competitive for at least like a playoffs finish. There's no way they can just bomb out and we're gonna say, yeah, okay, first tournament, we can't say anything about that. No way, not this team.
This is my my polar opposite of the sleeping on Cloud9.
Right.
Like, I'm
this is
I'm-
like you are
you're
on Cloud9.
fucking-
You
I'm
are
fucking
on
hopped up
Cloud9.
on Cloud9.
You
I'm
are on
injected it into
Cloud9.
my fucking eyeballs, man. Like, you know, and then they're gonna come dead
Yeah.
last or some shit. But yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Cool. What should we do? I know Dimitri wants to do fantasy. Should we talk about fantasy?
We can just pick up the celebrity leaderboard,
Little board. Little board.
leaderboard to see how we're doing.
I got 4
I'm leading.
points.
I'm leading the fucking. Okay, I mean you have the same points as me, right? I think, Prof. You
I-
got 12 as well.
the bottom.
Freya #1 with a top 3% finish, followed by Scrawny, the Prince of Fantasy, as he has to be called.
Self-titled?
The Peter Pan of pandering
The
to the
Peter
crowd
Pan
in
of
France.
pandering.
To the crowd
Okay.
of France
All right.
and the fantasy players. Both of them 18 points, so like the top 3% finish.
Nice.
Great start for them. Top 5 P2, Tryharding, Spanish caster, Moses, Maniac on 15 points. A bunch of people on 15. Me and Striker on 12 points. And
Lucy,
then,
last season's winner.
yeah,
12.
12 points as well. These are like all decent scores, I would say. Like
And then you
10
get the people
plus.
in the single digits who fucking suck. Like
That is
me.
kind of true.
Yeah.
That's kind of true. Alexander, SPUNJ, who go 4 points, Get Right 2 points, and you have Banks and Vu on 0 points. I want to see Banks' team. I had Flames, Campus, Yabi, IM, and Rain. It's not a bad team. and
Not a
you
bad
wouldn't-
team.
You wouldn't expect them to have 0 points. to
No,
be
you
honest.
wouldn't.
He's
You wouldn't expect that.
he's even on positive for everybody. It's just like nobody banged.
Well, the way
Yeah.
that it's restructured this year, right, in terms of how the points are distributed.
I mean,
yeah,
it
but
didn't really affect much in this though, right? Because it's
it would essentially just make him win more points, more likely, because the
okay.
where you place, there is like a bit more points towards the bottom, essentially.
Okay, all right.
On the, but there's a lot of changes, so A
I
lot
gotta
of
stop
different
picking
things.
Justin, man. I'm too low to my boy. I'm gonna go. I'll go against it. I won't pick it in Cologne. I won't put Justin on my team, and then he'd probably play well.
All right.
Yeah,
Wait for the playoffs. He's a playoffs player.
Yeah.
that's true. There's multiple stages, isn't there?
Oh, okay. This is new on the end of the at the bottom.
Down
of
the bottom there with the okay. So the audience, you couldn't hear Dimitri there, but he was talking about the point summary, where the points came from for your team over the course of the event. So for me, of my points, 65% came from team
Didn't
points.
this exist before? Am I crazy?
Yeah, but it was hidden somewhere.
Okay,
couldn't
but
see
I
this
do
as
remember I
normies.
saw into it, but I don't think it was because of some admin, right?
It was just in a
Oh.
weird spot, I think, and you couldn't
Yeah,
see it
there we
for
go.
other teams as well.
I see
so
here. So my team points are top 65% compared to
the rest,
everybody.
yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's terrible. So my player points were top 42%. All of my shit was dog shit. Rolls dog shit, team dog shit, boosters 48%, player 40.
So basically, like, who was that? Banks? This one? Banks picked all the right teams, just not all the right players.
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, true.
So
That's cool.
He picked the right teams, but not the right players from those teams.
Yeah, okay. All right, nice. All right, well, I got to make a team for Cologne, but I'll get to that. So that's just for play-ins, right? Then we do group and then we do playoffs.
Yes.
And if
Nice.
you look
Three
at it, yeah, that
teams.
makes you can see Vitality and IP, Heroic, Navi, FaZe.
Navi. All of the
He
teams
picked
went
all
through.
of them. All of them went through, yeah, but he didn't pick any players who actually did super well.
Lovely jubblies. I'm just gonna have a quick look here. There was some people asking some quick questions. There was an individual who asked about how like veto order is determined. It's usually by seed, and then that team who is the highest seed gets to
Who
decide if they
decides,
want to
right,
be
yeah.
team A or team B, which depending on the team's rule, the tournament organizer's rule book. So that's seeding based, and the seeding would traditionally be done before the tournament. So yeah, there you go, as you'd expect.
Yeah,
But-
not many questions this week, so
Okay, cool. Nice episode. Just a little bit over 2 hours. Good chat. There's a
Nice.
guy who wasn't happy with our energy in the last couple of episodes, Strunker. I think that was
Really?
maybe because, he wasn't happy with our energy. He said, well, our energy wasn't good. So tonight I tried to do my hair a little bit more because maybe when he saw you and me, because we're just like bowl cut Andes at the moment.
Yeah, now we
We're
are.
full like bowl cut Andes. So maybe he thought maybe our hair were a bit emo. So I tried to just give it a bit more sauce tonight, and I hope you
Yeah.
felt the energy from the hair. And it's good to have Prof back. He's our beacon of light,
it was
the
a
most
rough
hopeful
start.
member of the team.
I apologize to everyone. Really, these tech issues, they drain you. It killed me. It killed me for the first half hour. I have to say, really, I wasn't on my A game. I really tried to get back into it. I was taking a pause. I was like, doing everything, jumping jacks, but it was really hard to get into it. But thanks you guys for like carrying me through for the first half, and I think I did my best in the second half to salvage. The
Yeah,
show.
looking
Not in the first half.
It is great. It is great to have such lovely people who watch our show who like to keep us in check. So
That's
shout
true.
out-
Though.
I mean, that is
enjoy
actually good.
Yeah. Well, I just
I don't
saying,
think our league was that bad, especially the one on with Snappy and Saw. I mean, that one was pretty nice. I have to say.
Someone said it was one of the best episodes ever.
which
That
one?
the
The one with
Snappy and Saw one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
was really
you
nice.
get
It was
you get
really
some
good conversation.
contrasting stuff, but also like the thing is as well. This is where sometimes it's a little bit different for me. So there's some people who take like longer pauses when they speak, and sometimes I like to jump in a lot and keep the conversation flowing. But if I'm with someone who takes more pauses and I do that, then I cut them off and they don't get to their point, and then I seem like a. And then people are like, this SPUNJ guy won't shut the fuck up. But my job is to try and keep the conversation flowing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't nail it, guys.
And it's also because like it's much easier to do when it's live and when you actually don't have the fucking delay that happens, and so like you're cutting people off just because of latency, and that's annoying as well. And you don't get the like visual cues that somebody would
in
speak
real life
and things like that.
In real life, it's so much easier
Yeah.
and so much more fun. And that's why we're doing a live show.
Which the
Let's
tickets are
go.
sold out, so you can't
Yeah,
come.
I think there is one right now
Somebody's-
because people return them. Some people
Refunded,
because they're like flying and can't get travel and stuff like that. So if
Normally we get some goodies for giveaways, don't we?
we should figure out some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll ask ESL again. They like to give us stuff when it's their events. They like to help give us some
we
goodies,
go.
so we can ask them and see if they want to give us some stuff to give away. Because they just have like, for some reason, just like all these signed shirts just lying around. They don't do anything with. They should start a museum. Like
No.
their office play doesn't get used that much. Turn it into a museum these days.
Yeah.
Right. Let's get out of here. let's go. All right, goodbye, everybody. See you
Yeah, Nick.
at the live show, I guess.
Sometime, yeah.
Bye.
Best esports odds, VIP program and a variety of bonuses, fast and easy withdrawals, bet on every possible CSGO match and tournament, as well as any other esports game. Only on 22Bet.
Here's a good vibe, train, 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 train. Here's a good vibe, train, 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 train.